Chapter 25. Moronu shook his head, but his face suddenly revealed a brilliant smile. He looked at Li Gua, then looked at Li Feng, then said with a smile, "Uncle Li Feng, you two don't need to worry about me. I'll take care of this matter. Wei Yun family, in my eyes, it's nothing but dog fart." Although the Yun family could be considered a family, it couldn't be compared to a colossus like the Murong clan. Of course, Murong didn't want to borrow the power of the Murong clan to solve this matter. He wanted to use his own strength to solve it. "Haha, little brat, who are you?" Hearing Murong say that his family was nothing but dog fart, Yun Hai couldn't help but look at Murong and laugh. However, his voice contained a fierce, killing intent. "Don't worry, I'm no longer the trash Murong of the past," Murong said seriously to Li Feng. Then, he broke free from Li Feng's grasp and strode towards the sea of clouds. "Murong." Murong looked at Yun Hai and said indifferently, "Murong? This name seems a bit familiar." "Oh, I remember. Aren't you the trash of the Murong clan?" "Huh, you, a trash that can't practice martial arts, also want to meddle in other people's business?" Yun Hai looked at Murong with disdain and sneered. "Since you want to meddle in this matter, then I can't favor one and discriminate against the other, can I? Come, break this trash's hands and feet, then throw him out." Following Yun Hai's words, two servants of the Yun family strode forward. They looked at Murong with a grim smile and were about to make a move. "Break his hands and feet." Murong's eyebrows flashed with a cold, killing intent. This Yun Hai was so young, yet he was so vicious. Presumably, this Yun family really wasn't a good person. "Brat, don't blame us. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for seeking death." The two big men grinned and stretched out their big hands to grab Murong's shoulders. To the two of them, it was a waste of talent to ask two martial artists to deal with a piece of trash who could not practice martial arts. But there was nothing they could do. Their master had given the order. Even if he wanted them to kill, they could only do so, seeing that the hand was about to grab Murong's shoulder. At this moment, Li Feng, Li Gua, and the others in the restaurant cried out in alarm, full of worry. The two burly men grinned maliciously. Their big hands suddenly sped up and quickly grabbed over. However, at this moment, they felt that their hands were blocked. The two men were shocked, thinking that the martial artist had made a move. However, when they looked over, they saw that it was actually that trash Murong who had grabbed both of their fists. The two of them were shocked at first, then they flew into a rage. He was a dignified martial artist, yet his fist was caught by a piece of trash who could not practice martial arts. This made them feel humiliated. Angry, murderous intent, they growled and their power surged, wanting to send Murong's fists flying. However, when they burst out with power, they found that their fists could not advance even an inch. Even Murong's fists, who had grabbed their fists, were like two mountains blocking in front of them. The two of them were shocked again. Their big hands shook and they were about to withdraw their hands. However, Murong's fist did not move an inch. Like an iron clamp, they firmly clamped their fists. This time, the two of them knew that they had met a master. How was this delicate and pretty boy a piece of trash? He was clearly a martial arts master. Both of them were Hotian 5th Celestial Layer martial artists, but the other side had so easily restrained them. The other side's cultivation was at least stronger than the two of them. The two burly men growled. The other fist was aimed at Murong's head and fiercely bombarded it. Murong's eyes flashed with a touch of cold, murderous intent. He coldly snorted. Then his hands fiercely shook. His two big hands fiercely swung up. Bang! Bang! The two burly men were simply unable to resist. Like two pieces of wood, they were swung up by Murong and then fiercely smashed on the ground. After two loud sounds, the two burly men and the ground fiercely collided. A powerful force burst out, and the hard floor was suddenly smashed and cracked. The two Hotian 5th Layer martial artists were smashed into dizziness. Seeing this scene, the people present were stunned. What was going on? Wasn't Murong the legendary piece of trash? How could he be so brave today? Those two were Hotian 5th Layer martial artists. Their strength was formidable. In front of Murong, They could not even withstand a single blow? Li Feng was dumbfounded as he stared at Murongyu. His eyes flickered with excitement. Uncle Li Feng, which hand or foot did they use to hit you? Left hand. Right foot. Right hand. Left foot. When Murongyu asked, Li Gua, Li Feng, and even the waiter of the auspicious gathering mansion unexpectedly answered in unison. Murongyu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Very good, using both hands and feet. Usually, you two have used these hands and feet to bully many people, right? Since it's like this, then today I will break your hands and feet. While speaking, Murongyu strode forward and fiercely stomped on one of the burly men's thighs. Ah! A mournful scream, accompanied by the crisp sound of bones breaking, was heard. It made people feel weak in the bones, but at the same time, it was also very frightening. However, Murongyu's expression did not change. He continued to stomp on the burly man's thighs. In just a short moment, the sound of bones breaking rose and fell, followed by the burly man's mournful screams. Noisy. Hearing the burly man's screams, Murongyu frowned and shouted in a low voice. Then, with 2 consecutive kicks, the 2 men were sent flying. Then, the restaurant fell into silence. What? You're all looking at me like I'm a monster? Murongyu clapped his hands and suddenly laughed. That kind of murderous aura just now, that kind of murderous intent was like a spring breeze, instantly dissipating. This, little you, when did you become so fierce? Li Feng slapped his chin and closed his mouth. Then, with a strange cry, he walked toward Murongyu. At the same time, Li Gua looked at Murongyu with a face of shock. Murongyu only smiled. I'm really sorry. I didn't have time to tell you that I'm no longer the trash from before. You little brat. Li Feng laughed. He was really happy for Murongyu. You trash. You actually crippled 2 of my servants. You're really looking for death. After Murongyu crippled the 2 burly men, Yunhai had been staring blankly at Murongyu with a face full of shock. His flickering eyes told others the fear in his heart. Hearing this voice, Murongyu's face immediately turned cold. He immediately turned around and looked at Yunhai with a cold expression. At the same time, he strode toward him. Slap! The crisp sound of a slap spread far and wide. No one at the scene could see how Murongyu made his move. The slap landed on Yunhai's handsome face. Yunhai let out a miserable cry as he was sent flying like a broken rag doll. During this process, he spat out a few of his white teeth along with a mouthful of blood. Bang! Yunhai fell heavily on the street outside the Blessing restaurant. His handsome face was swollen. However, the pain of his physical body was not as great as the anger in his heart. You're dead. You trash. You dare to hit me. You're dead. You're dead. Yunhai roared with fire in his eyes. Shut up. Murongyu walked out of the Blessing restaurant and stood in front of Yunhai. He looked down at Yunhai and said, I'm warning you. Li Feng is my good brother. If the Yun family dares to touch the Blessing restaurant again, don't blame me for destroying you. You're dead. The Blessing restaurant is also dead. Just wait for your deaths. Yunhai looked at Murongyu with hatred. If not for the fact that he was weaker than Murongyu, he would have killed Murongyu long ago. Murongyu frowned and looked at Yunhai with murderous intent. If the Blessing restaurant suffers any damage, I'll make the Yun family disappear from the face of this world. Get lost. Murongyu coldly snorted and sent Yunhai flying with a kick. Isn't this the young master of the Yun family? How'd he get beaten up like this? I heard that the one who hit him is Murong's trash. Murongyu. TSK. When did Murongyu become so fierce? Could it be that the Yun family wants to mess with the Murong family? Idiot. Even if the Yun family was given 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to mess with the Murong family. However, Murongyu is Murong's trash. Now that he's in conflict with the Yun family, I wonder what the Murong family's attitude will be. Murongyu glanced at the people on the street indifferently and quickly walked into the Blessing restaurant. At this moment, the workers of the Blessing restaurant ran out and started to clean up the mess. Xiao Yu, you've offended the Yun family. I'm afraid you'll have a hard time in the future. Li Gua said worriedly as soon as Murongyu walked in. Uncle Li, don't worry. I don't care about a mere Yun family. If they dare to cause trouble in the future, just let me know and I'll beat them to death. Morongyu said confidently. Yes, a Mirian family. Morongyu didn't care about them at all. After all, even though he wasn't strong enough, with his cultivation speed, wouldn't it be easy for him to reach the Xiantian realm? On the other hand, Morongyu's goal was immortality. As long as he had enough time, he would definitely sweep through the cultivation world, even a legendary immortal realm or heaven realm. Li Feng was Morongyu's good brother. Li Guo and his family treated him so well. Morongyu couldn't just watch the Yun family bully them. I hope the Yun family will restrain themselves. Otherwise, I don't mind making them disappear from this world. Morongyu's eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. Morongyu, get out here. Not long after Morongyu entered the Blessing restaurant, a thunderous sound came from outside. The sound was loud and clear and contained a terrifying, killing intent. It was deafening and caused people's hearts to palpitate. Some ordinary people even felt their blood boil and their chests tighten when they heard the angry roar. Morongyu squinted his eyes, and a cold light flashed through them. He nodded at Li Feng and Li Guo, then strode out. Behind him, Li Guo and his son also chased after him. Chapter 26. In the middle of the street, an expert around the age of 25 stood in the middle of the street with a murderous aura. His eyes were blazing with anger as he stared at the Blessing Mansion. The moment he saw Morongyu, the young man growled and his aura became even more violent. He glared at Morongyu and said, "You're Morongyu? You're the one who injured Yunhai?" Morongyu stopped 3 meters away from the young man and looked at him indifferently. "What? You beat up the younger one and the older one came out? Who are you?" "I'm Yunhai's brother, Yin Cheng." "You bastard, I'll kill you." Yin Cheng roared and took a step forward. He threw a punch at Morongyu. Morongyu sneered as he executed the flying clouds 4 steps. His figure flashed as he dodged Yin Cheng's attack. "Yunhai deserved it. I don't want to fight with you. You can leave now." Morongyu didn't retaliate and only spoke indifferently. "Big brother, you must avenge me and kill this trash." Not far away, Yunhai had already woken up. At this moment, he was glaring at Morongyu with a venomous expression and gnashing his teeth. Yin Cheng roared and looked at Morongyu with a murderous aura. "You have 2 choices. Kill yourself, or I'll kill you myself." A cold light flashed in Morongyu's eyes. He looked at Yin Cheng indifferently and said, "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Morongyu was truly furious. The so-called Yun family was just an ordinary family. It was one thing for Morongyu to dominate the market, but he couldn't be bothered to meddle in matters that didn't involve him. However, since they wanted to touch the Blessing Mansion and offended Morongyu, he didn't care. He wouldn't be courteous to the Yun family. He didn't want to fight with Yin Cheng not because he was afraid, but because he didn't want to incur too much hatred. After all, Morongyu wasn't afraid of the Yun family, but Li Feng and the others still had to live here. Yin Cheng growled with a murderous look and stomped his foot. The sturdy street was instantly crushed by him, and cracks appeared one after another. It was a ghastly sight. Rumble! A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Yin Cheng's body, sweeping out in all directions. 90 ferocious flood dragons were circling above his head, and an endless pressure swept out in all directions. 90 dragons of strength, the 9th layer of the Hotian realm. Boy, I've just broken through to the 9th level of the Hotian realm a few days ago. Now, I'll use you to test my saber. Yin Cheng grinned ferociously and fiercely stamped his right foot on the ground. A terrifying power exploded, and the ground immediately shattered, creating a huge crack. Yin Cheng, on the other hand, had already soared into the sky and pounced on Morongyu like a goshawk. Breaking through to the 9th level of the Hotian realm at the age of 70 or 80, what a piece of trash. Morongyu sneered and circulated his power. An aura that wasn't inferior to Yin Cheng's spread out from his body, sweeping out in all directions. 80 incomparably condensed black flood dragons circled above his head, roaring and emitting bursts of dragon power, which intimidated all the heavens and myriad worlds. 80 dragons of strength. How is it possible? He's only at the 6th level of the Hotian realm. How can he have 80 dragons of strength? When Murong-Yu showed his strength, the warriors nearby exclaimed. Murong-Yu's strength wasn't high, only at the 6th level of the Hotian realm. Ordinary practitioners, even those legendary super geniuses, could only have 49 dragons of strength at most after this realm. But Murong-Yu had reached 80 dragons of strength. That was the strength of an 8th level of the Hotian realm. Murong-Yu, the legendary piece of trash, actually had the strength of an 8th level of the Hotian realm when he was at the 6th level of the Hotian realm. In an instant, the surrounding people were shocked. Even Yin Cheng was shocked. But then, Yin Cheng sneered. Even if you have 80 dragons of strength, so what? I'll crush you to death with 90 dragons of strength. As he spoke, Yin Cheng had already punched Murong-Yu's head fiercely. His attack was so vicious that it was obvious that he wanted to take Murong-Yu's life. Murong-Yu's face was cold, and his eyes were shining. After all, Yin Cheng had 10 more dragons of strength than him, so the difference in numbers directly suppressed his momentum. But Murong-Yu was not afraid at all. He used the flying cloud's 4 steps, and his body was like a flying dragon. He met Yin Cheng's punch fiercely. Dragon Elephant Prajna skill. Murong-Yu roared in his heart and punched out. A dragon and an elephant phantoms appear behind him. At the same time, the 80 dragons of strength above his head roared and condensed into a terrible force. It combined with the dragon and elephant behind him and fiercely collided with Yin Cheng's fist. Boom! After an earth-shattering sound, the two figures flew backward. 2 streaks of light flashed across the void and flew backward. With a single strike, the two of them were actually on par with each other. Ripping Lung Dragon Claw Kick. Murong-Yu roared in his heart and used one of the 7 moves of the Dragon Elephant Prajna skill. These 7 moves were taught to him by Hichu when he was practicing the Tiger Roaring Imperial Fist. This was because Hichu disdained the Tiger Roaring Imperial Fist and felt that it was too low level. So he could only teach Murong-Yu the Dragon Elephant Prajna skills set. This guy had previously lied to Murong-Yu that the Dragon Elephant Prajna skill did not have a corresponding move, which made Murong-Yu depressed for a long time. Murong-Yu soared into the sky and kicked out quickly with the dragon and elephant phantoms. A terrible force exploded from his feet, tearing the sky and splitting the earth. It seemed that even the void was shaking. The momentum was extremely frightening and made people's hearts palpitate. Seeing Murong-Yu's terrible attack, Yin Cheng's face became serious. He shouted, "Claw the 6 moves of the Cloud Dragon." Yin Cheng turned into a streak of light and pounced on Murong-Yu like lightning. During this process, his hands turned into claws and transformed into divine dragons. They violently clawed at Murong-Yu's feet. Rumble! The two sides collided violently, and waves of terrifying power exploded out. Dust flew everywhere, and the sky cracked and the earth cracked, sweeping in all directions. The originally flat street was smashed into pieces by the explosive power of the two of them. Both sides separated upon contact and flew backward. Murong-Yu was shocked. Yin Cheng was indeed an expert of the 9th level of the post-liminary realm. His strength was extremely strong. With a claw, he actually broke his fierce attack. However, compared to Murong-Yu, Yin Cheng was even more shocked. After all, he was an expert of 90 dragons of strength, which was 10 dragons of strength more than Murong-Yu. In terms of strength, he suppressed Murong-Yu. However, after fighting for a while, Murong-Yu was stronger than he had imagined. The suppression of the 10 dragons of strength did not seem to pull away from Murong-Yu. The 9th level of the post-liminary realm is just SOSO. Murong-Yu snorted and pounced on him again. He called it the 4 steps of the Cloud Dragon. With each step, he crossed a distance of 10 feet. After the 2nd step, he had already soared into the sky. In the void, Murong-Yu directly used the 2nd move of the Dragon Elephant Prajna technique, the 1,000 Army Elephant Drawing Fist. With a punch, the surrounding space was directly blown away, making a terrible sonic boom. Yin Cheng was murderous. His aura was violent like a stormy sea. He stomped on the ground and soared into the sky like a meteor, facing Muronyu. Fist of the 6 forms of the cloud dragon. With a punch, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The sun and moon lost their light. A terrible aura burst out, shocking the world. The houses on both sides of the street were also on the verge of collapse. Boom! After a loud sound, the 2 of them were sent flying again. However, the 2 of them did not stop. After stabilizing their bodies, they pounced on each other again. Violent power, like a stormy sea of aura. In a moment, the 2 of them were fighting crazily. Waves of fighting spirit soared into the sky. Their killing intent was limitless. Under the suppression of absolute power, although Muronyu had the dragon elephant prajna technique to increase his strength, he was only able to fight Yuncheng to a draw at the beginning. However, after they had fought dozens of battles, Muronyu became more and more familiar with his own strength and moves. In fact, this was his first battle. His battle experience was infinitely close to 0. However, after dozens of rounds, Muronyu actually gradually suppressed Yuncheng. The more Yuncheng fought, the more shocked he was. After dozens of rounds, he felt a little tired. However, the more Muronyu fought, the stronger his aura became. There was even a faint trend of him being suppressed. Boom! Yuncheng punched fiercely on Muronyu's chest. The terrible power was like a flash flood, directly sending Muronyu flying and vomiting blood. However, Muronyu's kick also sent Yuncheng flying. Kill! Muronyu spat out a mouthful of blood, but his aura became more fierce. With a loud shout, he pounced on Yuncheng again. Yuncheng was shocked. After being kicked by Muronyu, although his bones were not broken, his chi and blood were surging and his breathing was chaotic. However, he was a ruthless person. He gritted his teeth and fought Muronyu again. Soaring Dragon and Roaring Tiger. In addition to the Flood Dragon that showed his strength, Muronyu's body was constantly transforming into dragons, tigers, and elephants with his punches and kicks. Go to hell. Suddenly, Muronyu shouted and punched Yuncheng's chest with a tiger roaring emperor fist. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking was heard, and Yuncheng vomited blood and was sent flying. However, Muronyu was also slapped to the ground by Yuncheng. Cough, cough. Yuncheng coughed up blood and stood up with difficulty. A large part of his chest had collapsed, and his breathing was chaotic. He was unable to continue fighting. After being slapped to the ground by Yuncheng, Muronyu felt dizzy from the immense force of the slap. However, he had the chaotic celestial body constitution and had an unparalleled recovery power. It was different from Yuncheng's chest, which was caved in. Although Muronyu was in a sorry state, he was not seriously injured. However, when he stood up from the ground, he staggered a little. However, when he saw Yuncheng walking slowly towards him, he frowned slightly. At this moment, Muronyu only seemed to be in a sorry state. However, he was the only one who knew the actual situation. At this moment, he had used up all his strength. Chapter 27. After all, he had only been cultivating for less than a month. Although his strength was great, reaching 80 dragon strength, it was still his first battle. However, this was also his first battle. He had no experience, and his control over his strength was not good enough. It could even be said that the energy he had used up was not released, but a large portion of his energy had been wasted. Do you still want to fight? Although his strength was depleted, Muronyu stood proudly on the street, looking at Yuncheng coldly. Yuncheng's eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Muronyu. His cold killing intent was not concealed at all. At this moment, Yuncheng really wanted to kill Muronyu. However, Muronyu's strength had truly shocked him. He was at the 9th level of the Hotian realm, with 90 dragon strength. He had 10 more dragon strength than Muronyu. If it was an ordinary person, with a difference of 10 dragon strength, he would have killed the opponent directly. However, Muronyu fought with him for dozens of rounds. Not only was he not suppressed by the difference in strength, but he was also seriously injured. At this moment, Yun Cheng's chest was fractured, and he no longer had the strength to fight. Murong Yu. Very good. I will remember today's matter. I will definitely take your life in the future. Yin Sheng looked at Murong Yu with killing intent and said with a sneer. Murong Yu shrugged indifferently. I am only at the 6th level of the Hotian realm. Today we were tied. Once I break through the realm, you will definitely not be my opponent. Yun Cheng's body trembled, and a cold, killing intent shot out from his eyes. Murong Yu was telling the truth. He was only at the 6th level of the Hotian realm, but he already had 80 dragon strength. He was tied with Yun Cheng, who had 90 dragon strength. What if he broke through to the 7th level of the Hotian realm? How much dragon strength would he have? Once Murong Yu had the same dragon strength as him, would he still be his opponent? Thinking of this, Yin Cheng's heart flashed with a touch of hostility. He had an impulse to kill Murong Yu. However, in the end, he sighed inwardly and did not dare to kill Murong Yu. After all, even though Murong Yu was the trash of the Murong family, he was still the trash of the Murong family. However, he dared to kill Murong Yu. If the Murong clan were to pursue this matter, how could his small Yin clan contend against the colossus that was the Murong clan? Yin Sheng picked up Yin Hai and walked away slowly. On the other hand, the people on the street were pointing at Murong Yu. They were just surprised by Murong Yu's strength. Some people who knew about Murong Yu's identity even started to spread the news. Murong Yu only glanced at the crowd indifferently, then dragged his weak body back to the auspicious gathering mansion. Little Yu Zi, you're too amazing. You actually defeated Yunqing. He's an expert of the 9th celestial stage. Li Feng ran over and slapped Murong Yu's shoulder, then said excitedly. Murong Yu grinned. His weak body was almost sent flying by Li Feng's slap. However, looking at his good friend's excited appearance, Murong Yu was also quite happy. Right? Weren't you trash who couldn't practice martial arts before? When did you become so powerful? Stinking brat. Why didn't you tell me that you became so powerful? I was worried to death. Li Feng was like a chatterbox, bombarding Murong Yu's ears with a torrent of words, causing him to feel dizzy and dizzy. Stinking brat, what are you talking about? Let little you go back and rest first. Li Gua fiercely glared at Li Feng and said in a deep voice. Li Feng only laughed mischievously and strode into the auspicious gathering mansion with Murong Yu. I'm a bit tired. I need to recover my strength first. No problem. Immediately, Li Feng found a room for Murong Yu to recover his strength. In Murong's house. What? Murong Yu has already reached 80 dragons' power, and he's only at the 6th celestial stage? Hearing his subordinates report, Murong Ling's eyes flashed with a fierce killing intent. How is that possible? The 6th celestial stage has 80 dragons' power, and he even defeated the 9th celestial stage Yinsheng? Murong Ling walked over and growled. He had reached the 5th celestial stage, but he only had 20 dragons' power, and Murong Yu was only one stage higher than him. How could he have 60 dragons' power more than him? Young master, I saw it with my own eyes. Well, you can leave. Murong Ling's eyes flashed, and after waving his hand to dismiss the servant, his face became gloomy. Big brother, wasn't this trash unable to practice martial arts? How did he suddenly become so powerful? If you had directly killed him that day, wouldn't it have been better? Murong Ling's eyes flashed with a venomous look like a viper and said while gnashing his teeth. The matter of Murong Yu crippling his hand was still vivid in his mind, and his hatred for Murong Yu was also growing stronger. Even if he has reached the 9th celestial stage, so what? A single finger of mine is sufficient to kill him. Murong Ling laughed coldly as he spoke in an unconcerned manner. Big brother, 2 months later you must kill this bastard. Murong Ling said bitterly. Murong Ling slightly nodded. He will die without a doubt. Auspicious gathering mansion. After instructing that no one was to disturb him, Murong Yu directly entered the Hichu Luoshu world and began to recover his strength. As soon as Murong Yu appeared in the Hichu Luoshu world, Hichu appeared in front of him out of thin air. Then he looked at Morong and shook his head. Being stared at by Hichu, Morong felt uncomfortable. He glared at Hichu and said with dissatisfaction, "What do you want?" As a chaotic celestial body, you used up all your strength to deal with a mere ninth celestial stage trash. You really are a weirdo. Hichu looked at Morong and shook his head for a long time before finally saying this. Morong rolled his eyes and almost vomited blood and fainted. "Big brother, I'm not you, okay? He is 3 levels higher than me. Moreover, this is my first time fighting. To be able to achieve such a result is already not bad." Hichu's eyes showed disdain. "Do you know what the greatest benefit of a chaotic celestial body is?" Morong shook his head. He really didn't know. Hichu didn't speak and just pointed at Morong body. "Body?" Morong said hesitantly. Hichu nodded. "There are all kinds of physiques in the world, but a chaotic celestial body is the king of all physiques. Do you know why? It's because a chaotic celestial body is the strongest physique. No physique can compare to a chaotic celestial body. Furthermore, people with a chaotic celestial body physique are different from ordinary cultivators. Ordinary cultivators rely on all kinds of Dharma treasures and divine weapons. However, these are just inferior means. Do you know what the strongest Dharma treasure and divine weapon in the world are?" Morong shook his head blankly. He had never even seen the lowest Dharma treasures in the cultivation world, let alone Dharma treasures and divine weapons. Physical body. Only the physical body is the strongest Dharma treasure and divine weapon. Do you know why those demon clan cultivators took on the appearance of humans? It's because the human body is the most mysterious physique. It has endless potential, especially all kinds of physiques. If you cultivate your physical body to the extreme, no Dharma treasure or divine weapon can withstand a single blow. The physical body is the most powerful Dharma treasure and divine weapon. At this point, a majestic figure involuntarily appeared in Hichu's mind. That person was so powerful that no matter how powerful a Dharma treasure or divine weapon was, he could shatter the world with a single punch. Dharma treasures and divine weapons are ultimately external forces. The physical body is the most powerful. You only need to remember this. After Hichu said that, he flew away. The physical body is the most powerful. Morong sat down cross-legged and carefully digested Hichu's words. What's so different about a chaotic celestial body? Morong pondered. He was still too weak, so the chaotic celestial body's advantages weren't revealed at all. However, even so, it allowed him to reach 80 dragon strength at the 6th firmament of the postnatal realm. I'm looking forward to seeing what surprises the chaotic celestial body has for me. What level can I reach after cultivating the chaotic celestial body to the profound level? In the following time, Morong recovered his consumed strength while summarizing the battle with Yuncheng. After his strength was restored, he also summed up a lot of valuable experience. The use of strength, the attack of moves, the control of strength, and so on made his eyes light up. It seems that fighting is the best way to improve strength. Morong stood up and felt the changes in his strength. He couldn't help but exclaim. He found that although his realm hadn't broken through, his dragon's strength hadn't increased. However, his strength had improved by quite a bit. "Little you're done so quickly?" Seeing Morong walk out of the room energetically, Li Feng, who had been guarding the door, couldn't help but be surprised. Although Morong had spent half a day in the Hichu Luoshu world, less than 2 hours had passed in reality. "How's it going?" Morong asked in a deep voice. Fortunately, the Yun family hasn't done anything for the time being. Li Feng's face darkened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Don't worry, I'll take care of this matter. It's just a small Yun family. It's nothing in my eyes." Morong sneered. As long as he broke through to the Xiantian realm, he could destroy the Yun family by himself. "Well, don't worry about these things for the time being. Let's go drink." Li Feng laughed and pulled Morong out. Half a month had already passed since that day. It was unknown whether it was because they were afraid of the Morong family or some other reason, But since the battle between Yun Sheng and Murongyu that day, the Yun family had restrained themselves a lot. They didn't continue to deal with the Blessing Mansion, and no one came to trouble Murongyu. Of course, this was what Murongyu was happy to see. After all, his strength was still weak. If he really had a conflict with the Yun family, the Murong family wouldn't step in. But the Yun family had a Xiantian master. Although Murongyu was strong, it was still difficult for him to contend against a Xiantian master. During this time, other than occasionally going to the Blessing Mansion, Murongyu spent the rest of his time cultivating at home. In the Hichu Luoshu, where time was accelerated by 2 times, Murongyu had already cultivated for a month. Adding the time before, Murongyu had already cultivated for 2 months. Chapter 28. The battle with Yun Sheng that day had greatly affected Murongyu. After receiving Hichu's advice, Murongyu began to cultivate his body deliberately in the following time. In the Hichu Luoshu world, a vigorous figure like a black dragon was constantly striking out one move after another. A dragon sword and a tiger roared. He moved horizontally in the air, and a powerful aura was emitted from his body. It suppressed the heaven and earth and was extremely terrifying. Murongyu stopped and stood still. He spat out a turbid breath. A smile appeared on his face. Dragon elephant prajna technique, tiger roaring imperial fist, flying cloud, 4 steps. As time passes, I become more and more powerful. Compared to the battle with Yun Sheng, my power has increased by at least 10 times. In a month, his strength had reached the 8th level of the Hotian realm. When he was at the 6th level of the Hotian realm, he already had the strength of 80 dragons. Now, Murongyu's dragon strength was far beyond the 9th level of the Hotian realm. You're only at the 8th level of the Hotian realm. Look at your useless appearance. Hichu suddenly appeared beside Murongyu and said disdainfully. Murongyu rolled his eyes. He was too lazy to talk to this guy. In addition to hitting him, this guy actually took pleasure in hitting him. Well, don't talk about immortals or gods. You should know that this is the secular world. My strength is already good. In the end, Murongyu could not help but roll his eyes and say, short-sighted. Hichu looked at Murongyu with contempt and said, the chaotic celestial body constitution can reach the peak of the Hotian realm in half a year, even if you don't cultivate in the world where the essence of heaven and earth is so rich. Even if you enter the Xiantian realm, it will be a matter of time. Murongyu jumped up and looked at Hichu in disbelief. Are you telling the truth? Do I need to deceive you? Brat, let me tell you something. In this world, the Hotian realm is only a small realm, and the Xiantian realm is also only a small realm. Only by attaining. Hichu frowned slightly and pondered for a moment before continuing. Only by attaining the foundation establishment stage in your immortal cultivation world can one barely enter the threshold of cultivation. Murongyu fell silent. Kid, I'm not trying to discourage you. If you are unable to reach the so-called foundation establishment stage within half a year, then it would really be a waste of a heavenly treasure. You don't need to cultivate anymore. Just find a tofu and kill yourself. Within half a year, he would reach the foundation establishment stage. The so-called foundation establishment stage was the first stage in the immortal cultivation world. Only by reaching this stage could one be considered to have truly cultivated. As for those below the foundation establishment stage, they could only be considered as practicing martial arts. After the peak of the 9th level of the Khanate realm, it was the foundation establishment realm. In other words, if one wanted to reach the foundation establishment stage, they would have to break through the peak of the 9th level of the Xiantian realm. The former master reached the foundation establishment stage from a mortal in 3 months. Hichu left behind this sentence and floated away. Murongyu remained silent. He was struck by a blow. He had used 2 months and still had not reached the Xiantian realm. And the former master of Hichu, Luoshu, had reached the foundation establishment stage within 3 months. This was a blow, an undisguised blow. Since that abnormal person reached the foundation establishment stage from a mortal in 3 months, I can also do what he can do. Even if I can't do it, I won't be too far behind him. After a long time, Yu's eyes flickered as he secretly made up his mind. Time flowed quickly like water from one's fingertips. Very quickly. There was only half a month left until the 3-month agreement between Yu and Hao. During this time, Yu spent most of his time cultivating in the Hichu Luoshu world. He rarely walked around the Murong clan. He also rarely went to the Blessing Gathering Mansion. More than 2 months had passed, and the various deterrents created by Yu seemed to have disappeared with time. Or perhaps it was because Yu did not walk around the Murong clan. It was as if he was gradually being forgotten by others. On this day, Yu left the Imperial Horse Directorate and was about to leave the Murong clan for the Blessing Gathering Mansion. Swish! Suddenly, Yu sensed something and raised his head to look at the distant horizon. In the sky, a streamer was flying toward an E-city at a terrible speed like a meteor. Is it a meteor? What a terrible aura! Yu narrowed his eyes and looked at the meteor that was flying quickly. However, at this moment, an extremely terrible aura came from all directions, making people's hearts palpitate. Yu was shocked. In addition to feeling the terrible aura, Yu also saw the meteor rushing quickly toward the Murong clan. Yu's heart skipped a beat, and the powerful aura disappeared in an instant. At this moment, the streamer had already rushed to the front of the Murong clan. It's a person. At this time, Yu finally saw the streamer clearly. It was a young man who was standing on a fluorescent flying sword. The young man was dressed in a white robe and had an otherworldly temperament. His whole body emitted a great aura, and there was a trace of immortal demeanor. Swish! The young man appeared in the sky above the Murong clan and disappeared with a swish. A cultivator. Flying on a sword, Yu's eyes flashed. He was not an idiot and could tell at a glance that the young man must be a cultivator. It should be known that only cultivators could fly on a sword. What a powerful aura! Yu was shocked. The aura of the young man, just now, was so strong that Yu could not tell what realm he was in. Yu even had an illusion. He felt that with his current cultivation, the young man could crush him with a finger. Flying on a sword, powerful strength. This is the life I pursue. Yu thought to himself. After a long time, Yu calmed down his inner shock and left the Murong clan. It's said that the clan has always been in contact with the sex in the world of cultivators. Now it seems that it's true. Boom! Walking on the street, suddenly, a terrible aura swept directly from behind Yu. It was earth-shattering, and the momentum was terrifying. A large hand seemed to tear through the void as it viciously grabbed at Yu's head. A cold, murderous intent flashed in Yu's eyes, and he directly punched out. Rumble! After the earth-shattering sound, Yu stood firmly on the spot. However, behind him, a figure staggered and flew backward. How is it possible? It's only been 2 months. How did you become so strong? Yincheng looked at Yu in shock. Just now, he was the one who sneaked an attack from behind. However, he did not expect Yu to counterattack and send him flying. A murderous intent flashed in Yu's eyes. He took a step forward and looked at Yincheng coldly. You sneaked an attack on me. Yincheng looked at Yu with a murderous intent. He stepped forward and released his aura. The void above his head had the strength of 91 dragons. 91 dragon strength. Your strength has actually increased. Yu's eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. Go to hell. Yincheng bellowed as he stomped on the street, causing it to shatter, creating a series of ghastly fissures. He borrowed the force and soared into the sky. Like a goshawk, he pounced on Yu. 2 months ago, you were no match for me. Now, you're no match for me. Yu sneered. He didn't seem to have done anything, but he took a step forward and sent out a punch. Bang! Yincheng seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. He was sent flying backward with blood spurting out of his mouth. Looking at Yincheng, who was sent flying by his punch, Yu sighed in his heart. This is the benefit of strength. In front of absolute power, All opponents are unable to withstand a single blow. That's right, Morongyu was much stronger than Yuncheng. 2 months ago, they had fought for half a day and fought dozens of people back. In the end, they were tied. But today, 2 months later, Morongyu could send Yuncheng flying with just one punch. You're no match for me. Morongyu glanced at Yuncheng and turned to leave. Looking at Morongyu's back, Yuncheng's expression kept changing. Morongyu's strength was beyond his expectation. His speed was so fast that he cannot bear it. Go to hell. Suddenly, Yuncheng roared and soared into the sky with the help of the Force. In the air, he held his saber with both hands and slashed at Morongyu's back. Chi! The saber spat out a long saber light that seemed to tear the void apart. With a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth, it quickly slashed at Morongyu. You are courting death. Morongyu used the flying cloud 4 steps to soar into the sky and avoid Yuncheng's attack. Then, he used the flying cloud 4 steps to rush to Yuncheng's side. His big foot was like a divine whip that lashed at Yuncheng. Crack! The sound of bones breaking rang out, accompanied by Yuncheng's blood-curdling screams. He was sent flying while spurting out blood. Morongyu's killing intense soared as he used the flying cloud's 4-step technique to rush over and ruthlessly punch Yuncheng's head. If Yuncheng was hit, his head would definitely burst open and he would die. Seeing that Yuncheng was about to be killed by Morongyu, a powerful aura came and strangled Morongyu. Have mercy! A figure flew over quickly and took Yuncheng away. A cold light flashed in Morongyu's eyes. Yuncheng had clearly wanted to take Morongyu's life. Morongyu couldn't possibly let such a person go. Mercy to the enemy was cruelty to oneself. Morongyu, who had been bullied in the Morong family for so many years, knew this very well. Therefore, when he heard the voice and saw the figure trying to take Yuncheng away, not only did Morongyu not retreat, but he also took a step forward and fiercely slapped Yuncheng's head with his hand. With Morongyu's current strength, if he slapped Yuncheng's head, it would definitely be smashed into pieces. Chapter 29. You're courting death. A furious roar rang out. Following that, a tyrannical aura rushed over like a flood dragon and fiercely bombarded Morongyu. The aura was so strong that it could tear the sky and the earth apart. However, Morongyu wasn't afraid at all. In a hurry, he used the dragon-elephant prajna technique. Bang! Morongyu's fist fiercely collided with the frightening power. A berserk energy erupted, sending Morongyu flying as if he had suffered a heavy blow. With a flash, a tall figure appeared in front of Yuncheng. It was a middle-aged man who looked similar to Yuncheng. He was about 2 meters tall. At this moment, he was glaring at Morongyu with a murderous look. His violent aura was like a stormy sea. It swept towards Morongyu wave after wave. Thump, thump, thump. Under the impact of the strong aura, Morongyu was shaken to the point that his chi and blood were in turmoil. He took a few steps back. A Khanate expert, Morongyu stood still and stabilized the turbulent chi and blood in his body. He looked coldly at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's aura locked onto Morongyu. He helped Yuncheng up and asked, "Yuncheng, are you okay?" Yuncheng's bones were broken in many places. He was in so much pain that his face was pale. He looked at Morongyu with resentment and said, "Second uncle, I'm fine. I won't die for the time being." The middle-aged man was Yuncheng's second uncle, Yun Jingming, the younger brother of the current head of the Yun family. He was the only Khanate expert in the Yun family. Yun Jingming frowned when he saw Yuncheng with many broken bones. A cold, murderous look flashed across his face, and he said, "You stay here. I'll go kill this guy for revenge." Yuncheng just looked at Morongyu with resentment and nodded. He did not say anything. Yun Jingming turned around and slowly approached Morongyu. His body was full of murderous intent. The Yun family was not a big family. In the capital of the Great Xia dynasty, it was only a small family. He was the only Xiantian realm expert in the entire family. Apart from him, Yun Cheng was the only one who could break through and become an innate master in a short time. But now, he was almost crippled by Murong Yu. "Brat, prepare to die," Yun Zhengming shouted angrily as he stomped his foot on the ground. A huge force burst out, directly shattering the hard street, causing cracks to appear. On the other hand, Yun Zhengming borrowed the force of the collision to soar into the air. His two enormous fists, which were faintly flickering with light, fiercely smashed towards Murong Yu's head. An innate master. Murong Yu's expression turned serious as he roared in his heart. Suddenly, a powerful aura erupted from his body. 99 black flood dragons floated above his head. The strength of 99 flood dragons. When they saw the power of dragons hovering above Murong Yu's head, the nearby cultivators were shocked. Generally speaking, warriors in the ninth heaven of the acquired realm generally had 90 dragons of strength. Even some heaven-defying geniuses might reach 92 or 93 dragons of strength. However, very few people could reach 99 dragons of strength. This was because this was already the peak of the acquired realm. Yin Cheng, for example, had reached 91 dragons of strength. This was his limit. No matter how much he cultivated in the future, he would never be able to cultivate more dragons of strength. Even if he broke through and reached the innate realm, he would directly possess the power of the Kuei long ninth heaven of the acquired realm and 99 dragons of strength. Murong Yu was definitely a heaven-defying genius. Seeing the power of 99 dragons of strength, Yun Zhengming hesitated. He knew that a genius like Murong Yu would definitely be heavily nurtured by the various families. If he killed Murong Yu, and the forces behind Murong Yu pursued the matter, then the Yun family would be destroyed. Yun Zhengming did not know Murong Yu, so naturally, he did not know about the situation of Murong Yu in the Murong family. He was only thinking about this matter from an ordinary point of view. Kill. Murong Yu did not think so much. After increasing his strength, he used the dragon-elephant prajna technique. In an instant, the phantoms of the dragon-elephant gathered, and the sky and earth cracked. It carried a terrifying power and attacked Yun Zhengming. Rumble. The two sides collided. A terrifying power erupted, and the two of them were immediately sent flying. Yun Zhengming was fine. After all, he was a Khanate expert. Whether it was in terms of physical strength or strength, he was much stronger than Murong Yu. He only took 3 steps back. However, Murong Yu took more than 10 steps back before he could stop. Even so, his hands were still numb, and the qi and blood in his body were surging like rivers and seas. Second uncle, he is the trash of the Murong family, Murong Yu. Kill him. At this moment, Yin Cheng seemed to see that Yun Zhengming had some misgivings, so he reminded him. The trash of the Murong family, Murong Yu? Yun Zhengming was shocked at first, and then a fierce killing intent flashed his eyes. Many families in an E-city knew about Murong Yu's existence in the Murong family. Therefore, after knowing Murong Yu's identity, Yun Zhengming grinned hideously and rushed forward to kill Murong Yu. If it were someone from another family, Yun Zhengming would not dare to kill him. However, Murong Yu was different. After killing him, the Murong family would not pursue the matter. Yun Zhengming took a step forward, and the earth shook. The ground cracked. Bang! Yun Zhengming's body shook violently, and then the shadow of a Kuei Long appeared in the void above his head. The Kuei dragon was the lowest level of the dragon race, but it was much stronger than the flood dragons and many times stronger. It was just like the gap between a warrior of the acquired realm and a warrior of the primordial realm. The Kuei Long was the symbol of a warrior of the primordial realm. Whoosh! After exerting his power, Yun Zhengming crossed a distance of more than 10 steps in one step and rushed in front of Murong Yu. Then his big hand, which was like a palm leaf fan, slapped down on Murong Yu. Murong Yu's face changed slightly. When the shadow of the Kuei Long appeared above Yun Zhengming's head, he felt a pressure from a superior. This kind of pressure came not only from the suppression of the acquired realm, but also from the power of the dragon. In the dragon tribe, the hierarchy was very strict. Although the Kuei Long was a low-level dragon, it could absolutely suppress a flood dragon. At that moment, an unparalleled pressure swept over from all directions, fiercely suppressing Murongyu. He felt like he was in a swamp, and it was difficult for him to move. Thousand Army Elephantine Fist. Murongyu roared inwardly as he increased his strength. Using the 4 steps of the flying cloud, he soared into the air and sent a fierce punch towards Yun Zhengming. A mocking look flashed across Yun Zhengming's face, and a cold, murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward and threw a punch. Bang! The suppression between the levels was very obvious. With one blow, Murongyu was sent flying. At the same time, Yun Zhengming chased after Murongyu like a shadow and threw another punch at his head. He wanted to take Murongyu's life. In a hurry, Murongyu blocked Yun Zhengming's attack with both hands, but he was still sent flying. He crashed into a wall more than 10 meters away, and the wall shook violently. Murongyu's blood and qi churned from the attack, and he felt dizzy. Die! Yun Zhengming sneered and pounced. As expected of an inborn expert, the suppression between the levels and the dragon force is too obvious. If I don't show my true strength, I might really be killed today. Murongyu sneered in his heart. At the same time, he took 4 steps and soared into the air. At the same time, a dragon's roar came from his body. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, Yun Zhengming and the onlookers on the street were all shocked. This was because they saw a black dragon appear above Murongyu's head again. 99 Dragons' power was already the limit. Since ancient times, there had been people who had reached 99 dragon force, but no one had ever surpassed it. Be it the Jiao dragon, the Kuei dragon, or the Panchi dragon that loved higher levels, their limit was 99 dragon force. This was the rule of this world, and no one had ever broken it. However, at this moment, they were shocked to see 100 black dragons circling above Murongyu's head. Boom! Not long after reaching 100 dragons, Murongyu's aura skyrocketed again with a loud bang. The 101st Jiao dragon had already appeared in the void above his head. Boom! 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 The black dragons continued to appear out of thin air, circling above Murongyu's head, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. A powerful aura comparable to an inborn expert emanated from Murongyu's body, sweeping in all directions. It was extremely powerful. 110 flood dragons. A shocked cry came from the crowd. At this moment, 110 black dragons circled above Murongyu's head. They exuded an extremely powerful aura that shook the heavens and earth. It was a spectacular sight. Finally, Murongyu's aura stabilized, and the number of dragons above his head stopped increasing. But even so, it was still enough to shock the surrounding people. 110 dragon power. Murongyu's heavenly dragon's strength shocked everyone in the vicinity. Even his opponent, Yun Zhengming, was deeply shocked. Didn't they say that Murongyu was the trash of the Murong family? How could he be so powerful? Even those so-called first-class geniuses didn't have so much dragon force when they were at the 9th heaven of the acquired realm, right? Looking at Murongyu, the crowd discussed in horror. They now looked at Murongyu in a new light. Idiot! If Murongyu is really a trash, then those so-called geniuses are far worse than trash, a warrior said with a sneer. Maybe he has been pretending to be weak. This guy is insidious, another person said, pretending to be enlightened. However, Murongyu is really not popular in the Murong family. In this huge and city, Murongyu's title of trash had been widely known. After all, the Murong family was a first-class cultivation family. Chapter 30. Murongyu, a genius who couldn't practice martial arts, had appeared in such a huge family. This made everyone in the Murong clan feel ashamed. However, even if this was the case, it still couldn't erase the fact that Murongyu, this trash, existed. Therefore, when the children of the Murong clan interacted with other people, they were always talked about by outsiders that Murongyu was trash. It was precisely because of this that the children of the Murong clan didn't like Murong Yu. They thought that Murong Yu, this trash, was their disgrace and made them lose face. Therefore, no matter if it was Murong Ling, Murong Yin, or Murong Ji, they were all very disgusted with Murong Yu. Yin Jingming's face was very ugly. From Murong Yu's dragon strength, Murong Yu's future achievements would certainly be limitless. This kind of person, the Murong clan would certainly focus on nurturing. Yin Jingming's eyes flickered as he pondered in his heart. Murong Yu is the trash of the Murong clan and has always been disliked. Moreover, it is said that within these 2 months, he suddenly became powerful. He shouldn't have been valued by the Murong clan. Today, I've already formed an enmity with him. If I let him go and let him grow, he will certainly become an enormous threat to me. Since it's like this, I'll thoroughly eliminate him today. Yin Jingming's face revealed a sinister expression as he growled. His strength exploded as he rushed towards Murong Yu. Even if you have 110 dragon strength, you're still in the Hotian realm. You're destined to be killed by me. Yin Jingming sneered as he ruthlessly punched towards Murong Yu's head. 110 dragon power. Feeling the power in his body that was like a torrent, Murong Yu's face revealed a smile. Grasping a formidable power made him full of self-confidence. Even if you're in the Xiantian realm, I'll still beat you. Murong Yu growled as he stepped on the flying cloud 4 steps and turned into a ray of light as he directly fought with Yin Jingming. Boom, boom, boom. The strength of 100 Jiao dragons was equivalent to the strength of 1 Kuei long. But now, Murong Yu had the strength of 110 dragons. In terms of strength, he absolutely crushed Yin Jingming, who was at the first sky of the nascent realm. However, because the level suppression between the dragons was very obvious, even though Murong Yu's strength was greater than Yin Jingming's, under the suppression, it appeared that the two of them were evenly matched. The power of more than 100 Jiao dragons was unleashed, causing the void to tremble. A terrifying power erupted, bombarding the wide street and causing it to crack. The divine dragon roared, and its power swept across the area. The terrifying aura swept out in all directions, and the people on the streets were constantly pushed back. Bang! Murong Yu used the flying cloud 4 steps, and his entire body soared into the sky. Using the Dragon Elephant Prajna Art's heart-ripping lung dragon claw kick in the air, he sent out a dragon and an elephant illusion. The huge foot was like a divine whip as it ruthlessly struck Yin Jingming's body. Crack! Under the effect of the terrifying power, Yin Jingming, a Xiantian expert, was sent flying. Kill! Murong Yu continued to use the flying cloud 4 steps. His body swept across the void, and in an instant, he was above Yin Jingming's head. With a fierce stomp, he was above the Kuei dragon illusion above Yin Jingming's head. 10,000 Gene Strength Elephant Step. The second move of the Dragon Elephant Prajna Art. At this moment, Murong Yu's 110 Jiao dragons were all gathered under his feet. Roar! The Kuei dragon let out an earth-shattering roar as Murong Yu stomped it down. The Kuei dragon illusion actually faded. Kill! Murong Yu roared and stomped a few more times. Boom! Finally, after a loud sound, the Kuei dragon illusion above Yin Jingming's head was actually shattered by Murong Yu's stomp. Hiss! Seeing this scene, everyone nearby couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Even the Kuei dragon was shattered. This was the first time they had seen it. It was also the first time they'd seen such a method of battle. This Murong Yu is truly ingenious. I didn't know he could fight like this, someone exclaimed in shock. Murong Yu had exhausted all of his strength. After all, the reason he could soar into the air wasn't because he could fly. Even a Khanate realm cultivator couldn't fly. He'd merely borrowed the flying cloud 4 steps to temporarily soar into the air. Puffed. When the Kuei dragon illusion was shattered, Yin Jingming's mind shook, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, Murong Yu stomped down with a force of 10,000 Gene. Ah! Yin Jingming roared and raised his strength again. Another Kuei dragon illusion appeared in the air above his head. At the same time, he punched both fists into the air and slammed down on the falling Morongyu. Boom! Crack! Yun Jingming's fists fiercely slammed into Murongyu's feet. However, their strength was more or less the same, and Murongyu's combined strength. The sound of bones breaking could be heard from afar. Yun Jingming's fists suddenly cracked, and his arms were broken inch by inch. At the same time, Murongyu's foot stomped down viciously on top of Yun Jingming's head. With a stomp of his foot, a terrifying power erupted. Yun Jingming's body instantly exploded, and his brain matter splattered everywhere. He was deader than dead. As long as it was a human, they would die immediately if their head exploded. Only the immortals of the legends. However, Yun Jingming was only a Khanate realm cultivator. He couldn't possibly withstand Murongyu's stomp. In truth, if Yun Jingming's Kuei dragon hadn't been destroyed, it wouldn't have been so easy for Murongyu to shatter his head. However, Yun Jingming had made the mistake of underestimating his opponent. Moreover, he didn't know a cultivation method like the flying cloud 4 steps, so he'd been at a slight disadvantage. Of course, the fatal blow was the fact that Murongyu had shattered his Kuei long silhouette. The shadow of a dragon represented power. The Kuei dragon had been destroyed, which meant that Yun Jingming's strength had been scattered. Although he'd managed to gather his strength in time, how could he withstand Murongyu's attack? A Khanate realm cultivator had been so easily killed by Murongyu. Am I seeing things? A Khanate realm cultivator was so easily killed by a post-liminary realm cultivator? Seeing this scene, the surrounding people couldn't help but widen their eyes in disbelief. Perhaps it's because Murongyu destroyed his Kuei dragon, someone said, as if he'd seen something. Murongyu stood in place with an indifferent expression. This was his first time killing someone, but it didn't affect his emotions. After all, in this world where the strong preyed on the weak, the strong reigned supreme. Killing people was like slaughtering dogs. It was a very normal thing. Even though Murongyu hadn't killed anyone before, he had seen a lot of it. The Kuei dragon's shadow is equivalent to the power of a practitioner. If the Kuei dragon's shadow is destroyed, it's equivalent to dispersing the power of a practitioner. I can develop in this direction in the future, Murongyu thought to himself. Second uncle, Murongyu, I'm going to kill you. At this time, Yun Cheng, who had witnessed Yun Jingming's death, roared in grief and indignation. Then, he looked at Murongyu with a face full of resentment, turned into a stream of light, and rushed to kill him. You're courting death. A cold light flashed in Murongyu's eyes, and he kicked out. With a bang, Yun Cheng was suddenly kicked away and fell to the ground in the distance. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. After coldly sweeping a glance at the surrounding people, Murongyu leisurely left the area and headed for the Blessing Gathering building. After he left, the patrolling soldiers of the Great Xia dynasty came over to clean up the mess. Although this was the capital of the Great Xia dynasty and East City, however, there would be many fights between warriors every day. Even the Great Xia dynasty would turn a blind eye to this. After all, there were too many warriors and too many conflicts. Some warriors were even like the children of the Murong clan. Even the Great Xia dynasty didn't want to offend these families. The news that the trash of the Murong clan, Murongyu, had killed the Xiantian master of the Yun clan on the street spread quickly as if it had grown wings. Different people had different reactions when they heard it. The Yun clan. After hearing the news of Yun Jingming's death, the head of the Yun clan, Yun Jingbua, seemed to have aged dozens of years in an instant. Yun Jingming was the only Xiantian master of the Yun clan. The Yun clan had always relied on Yun Jingming's powerlessness to intimidate some small clans. It was because of this that they dared to suppress the Blessing Mansion. But now, Yun Jingming was killed and his 2 sons were crippled. Moreover, they were all killed by the same person. It would be a lie if Yun Jingbua didn't hate and want to kill Murongyu. But even their only Xiantian master had been killed. How could they compete with Murongyu? Don't have any conflicts with the Blessing Mansion before Murongyu dies. Yun Jingbua's eyes flashed with hatred as he gave the order. At the same time, he roared in his heart, Murongyu, You killed my second brother and crippled my son. I'll let you die. Murong, you really killed a Xiantian master? That's impossible, right? When the news reached the ears of others, most of them didn't believe it and couldn't deny it. How is that possible? That famous trash can kill a Xiantian master? In the Yun clan, Murong Ji roared with a ferocious expression. However, Murong Yu was completely unaware of all of this. At this moment, he was eating and drinking with Li Feng at the Blessing Mansion. He had killed the only Xiantian master in the Yun family and crippled their two young masters. At this moment, the Yun family should no longer have the strength to deal with the Blessing Gathering Mansion. After all, whether it was the Yun family or the Li family, they were just ordinary families. After killing Yun Jingming, a Xiantian expert, Murong Yu was no longer worried about the Blessing Gathering Loft. In the following days, he spent most of his time cultivating in the He-Tu and Luo Shu worlds. Ever since he had killed Yun Jingming, a Xiantian expert, Murong Yu had kept a low profile. However, it was strange that even though he had killed a Xiantian master, it did not attract the attention of the Murong family. The only way is to defeat Murong Hao in the upcoming battle against Murong Hao. Murong Yu's eyes flashed. Although he now had the He-Tu Luo Shu, the #1 book in the world, and possessed a supreme cultivation technique, he was still unable to cultivate. But he was still in the secular world. Chapter 31. From the first day of his cultivation, he knew that he would not be limited to this secular world. His goal was the Xioshin world, a higher-level world, the immortal world. However, although Murong Yu knew that there was a Xioshin world, but he didn't know where this so-called Xioshin world was. Although He-Tu had powerful strength and knowledge, he still couldn't bring Murong Yu into this so-called Xioshin world. After all, He-Tu wasn't familiar with this place. Now, if he wanted to enter the Xioshin world, he could only go through the Xioshin assembly a few months later. But Murong Yu didn't know where the Xioshin assembly would be held. And with Murong Yu's position in the clan, he didn't have the qualifications to get this opportunity. But Murong Yu thought that as long as he defeated Murong Hao, he would have the qualifications. Murong clan in the hall. Murong clan's current clan head, Murong Yang, was sitting on the main seat, and there were several elders of the Murong clan in the hall. Murong Yu killed a Xiantian master? Is this true? Murong Yang slightly frowned, looking at the two elders in the hall. Absolutely impossible. Murong Yu, that trash, couldn't cultivate. How could he kill a Xiantian master? Murong Bai, one of the elders of the Murong clan, said disdainfully. Murong Yu, this child, couldn't cultivate before. But he did kill a Xiantian master of the Yun clan, although he was only at the first sky of the Xiantian realm. Another elder, Murong Hai, said in a deep voice. Murong Yang's eyes flashed. Looking at Murong Hai, he asked, "What's going on?" Murong Yu's existence, the only trash of the Murong clan who couldn't cultivate. Even the high and mighty elders and the clan head seemed to know very clearly. If Murong Yu were to find out about this, how would he feel? Murong Hai frowned. It's true that he couldn't practice martial arts before, but 2 months ago, he went missing for a few days, and when he came back, he suddenly had power. At that time, he had injured a few servants. However, it didn't attract our attention. However, only 2 months have passed. The trash who couldn't practice martial arts back then can even kill a Xiantian master. Suddenly gained strength? How many days had he been missing? Could it be that he had a fortuitous encounter during those few days? Murong Yang frowned slightly and then continued to ask, "Do you know what happened during the days he was missing?" That day, he left the family with Murong Ling, but that day, Murong Ling returned. Murong Yu, on the other hand, had disappeared for a few days before suddenly reappearing. However, the Ling siblings, Murong and Ling, were not in the clan at this time. No one knows what happened that day, Murong Hai said. That day, when they went to the Pillar of Heaven's mountains, Murong Yu probably had some fortuitous encounter. Humph, fortuitous encounter? That trash also had a fortuitous encounter? Murong Bai said disdainfully. Regarding Murong Yu, this trash, Murong had a deep prejudice against Murong. After all, this trash had made Murong family lose face. Murong looked at Murong, not knowing why Bai had such a deep prejudice against Murong. He continued to say, that day, many people saw Murong kill Yun Zhengming using the flying cloud 4 steps and an unfamiliar combat skill. Moreover, Murong had already reached the Hotian 9th heavenly layer. Hotian 9th heavenly layer. Hearing this, Murong and Murong were shocked. 2 months ago, he was still a trash who couldn't practice martial arts. 2 months later, he reached the Hotian 9th heavenly layer. The two were shocked, but Murong immediately sneered and said, from an ordinary person to the Hotian 9th heavenly layer in 2 months? This was simply impossible, not to mention that Murong didn't believe it, even if other people didn't believe it. Could it be that he had been hiding his strength before? Murong frowned. Cultivating to the Hotian 9th heavenly layer in 2 months, this was extremely shocking. Murong didn't believe it at all. However, Murong was only 16 or 17 years old, and he had already reached the Hotian 9th heavenly layer. Wasn't he already comparable to Murong family's #1 genius, Murong Hao? Our Murong family actually had such a genius. We overlooked it. Murong suddenly sighed. Before, they only knew that Murong was a trash, but no one knew that Murong was actually a genius. Looking at the reaction of the two, Murong secretly laughed and continued to say, do you know how much dragon power does Murong have in the Hotian 9th heavenly layer? At most 90 dragon power, that's all. Murong said disdainfully. Murong's eyes flashed with a trace of sharp light, and his heart was moved, and he looked at Murong. 110 dragon power, Murong suddenly said. 110 dragon strength? What? What did you say? 110 dragon strength? Murong's eyes fiercely burst with blazing sharp light, and he suddenly stood up from his seat and looked at Murong with a shocked face. 110 dragon strength. Murong, are you joking? Murong looked at Murong and sneered. In the knowledge of others, it was impossible for the world's warriors to surpass 100 dragon power. Even their Murong family's #1 genius, Murong Hao, only had 90 dragon power when he was at the Hotian 9th heavenly layer. Murong smiled bitterly. He also didn't believe that Murong had so much dragon power. However, he still recounted the events that happened that day as it was. Genius. Absolute genius. I didn't expect that our Murong family had such a genius. Murong's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and his face was full of excitement. Let's go to the Imperial Horse Institute. Murong roared and strode out. Obviously, he couldn't stay calm. He had to see this genius Murong. Greetings, Patriarch. A figure was walking quickly in front. This person was the patriarch of the Murong family, Murong. Behind Murong, there were 2 elders with hurried expressions. Patriarch, what are you doing? Why do you look so hurried? Seeing Murong's hurried appearance, many of the Murong family's disciples were very puzzled. Isn't the patriarch going to the Imperial Horse Institute? Suddenly, a disciple exclaimed, because on the way, they noticed that Murong was actually going straight to the Imperial Horse Institute. Is it because of Murong? Many of the Murong family's disciples realized that something was wrong. Therefore, they followed outside to the Imperial Horse Institute. Along the way, there were dozens of people following Murong. The group of people went straight to the Imperial Horse Institute. Those who didn't know what was going on thought that something big had happened. Murong lives in there. Murong walked to the front of the Imperial Horse Institute and frowned slightly. Although the Imperial Horse Institute was relatively large, it was the place where the lowest level servants of the Murong family lived. How high could a servant who looked after the exotic beasts be? Because of Murong's previous physique, we can only arrange for him to look after the exotic beasts here, Murong said in a low voice as he walked up. Bang! 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 Murong had just finished cultivating in the Hichu Luoshu world when he heard the violent banging on the door. This made Murong furious. What's going on? I told you not to disturb me if there's nothing important. Moronyu opened the door and shouted with a gloomy face. However, when he saw the group of people in front of him, he was startled. The one who was banging on the door was a servant of the Imperial Horse Institute. However, at this moment, not far from the door, there were 3 old men standing. Their blood and chi were vigorous, and their blood and chi were soaring to the sky. Although they'd concealed their auras, the aura they'd unintentionally released caused Moronyu to furrow his brows. Xiantian Masters. Moronyu was shocked, and his eyes revealed a strange look of surprise. However, the surprise only lasted for a moment. In the next moment, he stepped out of the room and looked at the 3 people in front of him with an indifferent expression. Moronyu looked at Moronghai and the other 2 indifferently and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Who are you?" He wasn't the head of the Morong family at all, nor was he an elder of the Morong family. After all, with his previous status, how could he possibly know the head of the Morong family or an elder? "You're Moronyu?" Moronghai glanced at Moronyu and snorted disdainfully, taking a step forward. Suddenly, a tyrannical aura, like a torrent, directly pressed down on Moronyu like a raging wave. Boom! Moronyu was caught off guard by the berserk aura that swept over him like a stormy sea. He was forced to take a step back. "Who are you?" Morongyu's face darkened, and he looked at Moronghai indifferently. At the same time, the aura on his body exploded. He stood on the spot, resisting Moronghai's Xiantian aura. Oomph! Moronghai snorted, and the aura on his body became stronger. Like a tide, it pressed down on Moronyu crazily. "Damn you!" Looking at Moronghai, Morongyu's eyes flashed with a murderous intent. The aura on his body continued to rise, resisting Moronghai's aura. "Fall down!" Moronghai shouted, and his aura rose again. Like a storm, the aura swept towards Moronyu and covered the sky, trying to suppress Moronyu. Endless pressure pressed down on Moronyu from all directions. At this moment, Moronyu was facing an unprecedented pressure. Creak, creak. Under the pressure of the tyrannical pressure, Morongyu's bones were constantly being squeezed, causing them to creak. The boundless pressure seemed to want to crush Morongyu's body into dust. Morongyu's heart was filled with murderous intent. He looked at Moronghai with hatred, and his murderous intent was boundless. Seeing that Moronyu dared to show his murderous intent, Moronghai's eyes flashed. He let out a cold snort, and an even more powerful aura burst out from him. Oomph! Moronyu was hit hard, and he felt something sweet in his throat. He snorted, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His body was bombarded, and he was forced to take a few steps back. He was almost forced into the room. From the beginning to the end, Morongyang and Moronghai did not stop Moronghai. They just looked at Moronyu calmly. However, the disciples of Morong clan, who came with Morongyang, started to talk. "Clan leader, they are looking for Moronyu, that trash. I wonder what they want?" Someone asked, puzzled. Chapter 32. It seems like they're going to punish Moronyu. Morongyu's been very arrogant recently, injuring so many people. It's said that he even killed a Xiantian expert. A disciple whispered, that can't be right. Moronyu killed a Xiantian expert?" Someone asked in surprise. "Ignorant and inexperienced. This matter has already spread like wildfire. That trash actually killed a Xiantian expert. Now that the clan leader has personally come out, I'm afraid he's going to cripple Morongyu's cultivation. That can't be right. Moronyu only killed a Xiantian expert from a small clan. Would they dare to make trouble for our Morong clan?" Someone asked in confusion. That was the only Xiantian expert in their clan, and he was killed by Moronyu. "We should at least give them an explanation," someone sneered. Apart from the disciples of the Morong clan, the most shocked people were the servants of the Imperial Horse Directorate. Seeing Morongyu's ferocious expression and the murderous look on his face as he stared at Moronghai, how could they not understand? It's best to kill that bastard directly. On the other side of the Imperial Horse Directorate, Morong, who had been crippled by the Morong clan, had yet to recover. At this moment, He was staring at Murong Yu with a venomous look in his eyes. Murong Yu didn't listen to anything these people said. At this moment, he felt as if his bones were being crushed. A terrifying aura came crashing down on him like raging waves. If it wasn't for his extraordinary physique, he probably would have knelt down already. A Xiantian expert is nothing more than this. Murong Yu was furious. With a low roar, the aura on his body suddenly exploded. Boom! 110 black flood dragons appeared above Murong Yu's head after a muffled explosion. From this moment on, a violent aura swept out in all directions. After using the dragon's strength, the pressure on Murong Yu decreased greatly. 110 dragon strength. When he saw the dragon above Murong Yu's head, Murong Yang's face suddenly changed, and then he was pleasantly surprised. What a genius! The 9th layer of the post-celestial stage, 110 dragon strength. Absolutely the world. Murong Yang's face was full of excitement. Because of his excitement, his body even trembled slightly. Murong Yu's appearance had shattered his understanding. The 9th layer of the post-celestial stage, 110 dragon strength. Before today, not to mention seeing it, he had never even heard of it. Your future is limitless. Your future is limitless. My Murong clan is going to rise. Murong Yang thought excitedly. That's enough. Elder Bai, please withdraw. Murong Yang reacted and shouted at Murong Yu to withdraw. If this continued, Murong Yu would definitely be defeated by Murong for nothing. Murong Bai's eyes flashed with a cold light. He snorted coldly, withdrew his aura, and retreated a few steps. However, he stared at Murong Yu with evil intentions. How can it be? Murong Yu had actually managed to block Elder Bai's pressure. Elder Bai is a Xiantian master. At this time, not far away, a Murong clan disciple shouted. Idiot! Murong Bai is a Xiantian master. That's true. But Murong Yu is not bad either. He has more than 100 dragon strength. He can even kill a Xiantian master. It would be strange if he couldn't resist Elder Bai's pressure. Hearing this, Murong Bai's face twitched fiercely, but he just glared at Murong Yu and snorted coldly, but didn't say anything. Murong Yang stepped forward and looked at Murong Yu with excitement. It was as if he had seen a brother who had been separated for hundreds of years and was reunited. You are Murong Yu? Murong Yang tried to calm down and asked amiably. Yes, who are you? Murong Yu's face didn't look good. After all, these people came with Murong Bai and tried to intimidate him as soon as they met. Murong Yu naturally didn't have a good impression of them. Murong Yang was startled, and a trace of embarrassment appeared on his face. Murong Yu didn't recognize him, the clan leader. But this was normal. Before this, with Murong Yu's status, how could he be qualified to know these high and mighty existences? How dare you? He is the clan leader, and we are all elders. Murong Bai glared at Murong Yu and said coldly. Murong Yu glanced at Murong Yang and said indifferently, so it's the clan leader. I wonder if the clan leader has come to visit the Imperial Horse Directorate? What kind of exotic beast do you want to choose? Feeling the coldness in Murong Yu's words, Murong Yang felt awkward. However, he also understood why Murong Yu was so cold. Murong Yang sighed inwardly and said, Murong Yu, the clan has let you down these years. This is where our Murong clan has let you down. Although the Imperial Horse Directorate is not bad, the environment is not good. I have already prepared a courtyard for you. You can move out. I think this place is not bad. I have already lived here for 10 years. I am afraid that I will not be comfortable moving to another place. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. If the clan leader has nothing else, please go back. As he spoke, Murong Yu coldly snorted and turned to enter the house. With a bang, the door was slammed shut. This bastard is too much. Murong Bai's eyes flashed with killing intent. Murong Yu, if you think it through one day, come and find me. I'll go back first. Murong Yang sighed in his heart as a bitter smile appeared on his face. Then he turned and left. What's going on? The clan leader actually came personally to invite Murong Yu to move out, and Murong Yu did not even listen to the clan leader? Seeing this scene, the surrounding Murong clan disciples were shocked. Some of the more far-sighted people nodded inwardly. The Murong clan is going to change. The former trash is going to rise. This chaos brat is too arrogant. On the way back, Murongbai was very unhappy, not only because of Murong Yu's arrogance, but also because he, a Xiantian realm master, had not been able to suppress Murong Yu, although he did not use his full strength. After all, Murong Yu was only a Hotian realm martial artist, and he was a Xiantian realm martial artist. Murong Yang sighed inwardly and said, "Fine, we have let him down all these years. It is pardonable that he does not want to accept us now. Let's drop this matter." In a few days, Murong Yu and Murong Hao will have a duel. At that time, Murong Hai slightly frowned and said. Murong Yang frowned and said, "Both of them are the geniuses of our Murong clan. No one can lose them. This time, we will have to rely on them for the Immortal Assembly." Speaking of the Immortal Assembly, Murong Yang's eyes flashed with a blazing light. Immortal cultivation, immortality, this was the pursuit of everyone in the world. But not everyone could cultivate. To cultivate, one must have a certain aptitude and opportunity. In the secular world, Xiantian realm masters were the strongest. But in front of an immortal cultivator, they were nothing. Even the most ordinary immortal cultivator could easily destroy a secular empire like the Grand Xia dynasty. And in this world, the secular world and the immortal cultivation world had a great connection. In every clan, as long as someone cultivated, the clan behind this person would rise with the tide. For example, Murong clan, a colossus in the secular world, was simply an ant-like existence in the immortal cultivation sex. Therefore, in order to raise the status and strength of their clan, Murong clan would send their clan's geniuses to the immortal cultivation sex every immortal assembly. Of course, it was only to send them to the immortal assembly. Whether or not they could be chosen by the immortal cultivation sex would depend on their aptitude and opportunity. In the present Murong clan, only Murong Hao had absolute confidence in entering the immortal cultivation sex. But after the appearance of Murong Yu, Murong Yang knew that the second disciple in the clan would enter the immortal cultivation sex. The two of them can't be lost, especially Murong Yu. This time, he will definitely be able to join one of the top 10 immortal cultivation sects. Murong Yang said in a deep voice. Murong Bai only snorted coldly, while Murong Hai nodded. If Murong Yu couldn't join the top 10 immortal cultivation sects with his aptitude, then it was even more impossible for others. Have you finally discovered my existence? In the room, Murong Yu kept sneering. Just now, it was not that he was too arrogant, nor was it that he did it deliberately. Instead, it was his true performance. When he couldn't practice martial arts and was a waste, he was even worse than an ordinary servant in this clan. However, after he revealed his outstanding talent and displayed his cultivation talent, he was not able to do anything about it. Even the clan leader personally came to visit him. Murong Yu didn't think that the clan leader was sincerely good to him. They only fancied him because of his aptitude. If he still didn't have the aptitude, then they wouldn't even remember his existence. As long as I can go to the Immortal Cultivation Assembly, everything else. Murong Yu sneered. After this incident, Murong Yu had clearly become a celebrity in the Murong clan. Even the clan leader personally asked him to leave the Imperial Horse Directorate. Who would dare to offend such a person? Even those who disdained Murong Yu and bullied Murong Yu in the past all took a detour when they saw Murong Yu. There were even many people who began to apologize to Murong Yu in fear and trepidation. Murong Yu simply disdained these people and was too lazy to pay attention to them. This day was the 3-month agreement between Murong Yu and Murong Hao. 3 months ago, when the entire Murong clan knew about the duel between the two, everyone was very disdainful of Murong Yu. Because at that time, Murong Yu was still a waste. A waste actually wanted a duel with the number 1 genius of the Murong clan. Wasn't this courting death? At that time, no one was optimistic about Murong Yu. To put it bluntly, they all thought that Murong Yu was overestimating himself and was only courting death. However, today, 3 months later, Murong Yu's strength was peerless. The ninth layer of the Hotian realm actually had the strength of 110 dragons. Unprecedented. Moreover, at this realm, he actually killed a Scientian master. At this time, Murong Yu is no longer the waste from 3 months ago. It is said that Murong Hao is also at the ninth layer of the Hotian realm. I wonder who will win between him and Murong Yu. Someone said, Murong, you can even kill a Scientian master. This time Murong Hao will be a bit difficult. Chapter 33. Not necessarily. Rumor has it that Murong Hao has already broken through to the innate realm. Although Murong Yu is strong, he is definitely not Murong Hao's opponent. Near the martial arts field, on a stage, the Murong family's disciples were gathered. Even the other families were present. After all, Murong Yu, who was called Trash, was going to challenge the number 1 genius of the Murong family. This kind of show should be very exciting. On the high platform in front of the stage, the patriarch of the Murong family, Murong Yang, who once appeared in the Imperial Horse Directorate, was also sitting there. In addition to him, some elders and experts of the Murong family also appeared on the high platform. A duel between 2 geniuses. What kind of fortuitous encounter did this Murong Yu have? He actually has more than 100 dragon strength. This is really shocking. On the high platform, the experts of the Murong family were discussing. 100 dragon strength is equivalent to a master of the first sky of the innate realm. And Murong Hao has probably already broken through to the innate realm. But Murong Yu also has the power to kill a master of the innate realm. This time it will be interesting. Trash will always be trash. How can he compete with Hao? A middle-aged man sneered and said. He was Murong Hao's father, Murong Hao, a master of the innate realm. Hearing this, Murong Yang frowned slightly, but did not say anything. Voila! At this moment, there was a burst of exclamations from the crowd around the ring. They saw a slightly thin and weak figure of Murong Yu slowly walking over from the distance. He had a delicate and pretty face and a slightly thin and weak body. There was no strong aura escaping from him, and there was no intimidating look in his eyes. No matter how you looked at him, he always looked like a big boy next door. He is Murong Yu? He has more than 100 dragon strength? He killed a master of the innate realm? Impossible? Looking at the thin and weak figure of Murong Yu slowly walking towards the stage, the surrounding people could not help but discuss. They did not believe that the thin and weak figure of Murong Yu had such terrifying strength. Idiot, you think you can see through him? Then you wouldn't only have this achievement today. Someone retorted disdainfully. Murong Yu slowly walked up to the arena, his eyes fixed straight ahead. He turned a deaf ear to the discussions of the people around him and walked up the stairs to the ring. Murong Yu glanced at the people on the platform in front of him, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. However, he quickly covered it up and stood quietly in the ring. He's here. Murong Hao is here. Amidst the hubbub of the crowd, Murong Hao, dressed in white, was slowly walking towards this side. Beside Murong Hao, there was also Murong Ji and a few other youths. Seeing Murong Yu on the stage, Murong Ji's eyes flashed with cold, killing intent and resentment. Everyone, we must kill him, Murong Ji said to Murong Hao in a deep voice. Murong Hao's eyes flashed with killing intent, and then he nodded. Then he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, and his whole body suddenly soared into the air. He circled in the air and gently landed on the stage, standing opposite of Murong Yu. So handsome! Murong Hao's showy performance immediately attracted the cheers of the love-struck girls below the stage. Murong Yu, you actually dare to appear on the stage. You really have guts. Murong Hao looked at Murong Yu and sneered. Against you, I don't need guts, because you're not a threat to me. Murong Yu just looked at Murong Hao indifferently. In fact, he and this Murong Hao did not have any direct conflict. Even when Murong Yu was a waste, Murong Hao did not bully him like other people. However, 3 months ago, Murong Yu almost killed Murong Ji. This had already triggered Murong Hao's killing intent towards Murong Yu. Hearing this, Murong Hao's eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. I hope that when you die later, you will still be so calm. Murong Yu looked at Murong Hao non-committally, and then looked at the high platform in front of him. Don't fight too much. Don't hurt the harmony. Murong Yang looked at Murong Yu, and only said this sentence, and then ordered the battle to start. The battle between the two geniuses of Murong family. A waste in Murong family's #1 genius battle. Murong Yu die. Murong Hao sneered, and his feet fiercely stepped on the stage. Immediately, he borrowed the force of the attack and turned into a phantom as he charged at Murong Yu. During this process, Murong Hao gathered his strength and punched towards Murong Yu's head fiercely. A terrible power burst out, and the void seemed to be torn apart, making a terrible whistling sound. Traces of killing intent burst out, tearing the sky and splitting the earth, and strangling towards Murong Yu. Murong Yu's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. Although Murong Hao did not use the dragon strength, but just this punch alone could break gold and break stone. It was more than enough to break a 10,000-kilogram boulder. If it bombarded a person's head, the fragile head would definitely be crushed in an instant. He wanted to kill him. Don't fight too much. Murong Yu's eyes narrowed slightly, and he sneered in his heart. Boom! Murong Yu did not do anything, but he directly punched out fiercely. After an earth-shattering sound, the two figures immediately flew back as if they were hit hard. Under this attack, they were evenly matched. Murong Hao's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. You are indeed capable. But today, you will die without a doubt. At the same time, Murong Hao once again rushed forward, and a tiger roar emperor fist quickly and violently blasted out. As if tearing the void, a sharp sonic boom sounded. Dragon Elephant Prajnaart. Murong Yu roared in his heart and punched out. At this moment, the dragon elephant vision hovered around Murong Yu's body. The dragon roared and the elephant roared, and a terrible aura burst out from Murong Yu's body, sweeping in all directions. What kind of move is this? Seeing Murong Yu use the dragon elephant Prajnaart, Murong Yang and the others on the high platform in front frowned slightly. This was because the dragon elephant Prajnaart did not belong to the Murong family. Murong Bai's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at Murong Yu, and no one knew what he was thinking. Boom! After an earth-shattering sound, Murong Hao was directly sent flying. Murong Yu stood on the platform, and a strong aura was emitted, as if he was invincible. Murong Hao was shocked. He was a real Xiantian master. Even if he did not use the dragon strength, he could easily kill a warrior of the Hotian 9th layer with just the strength of his body. But at this moment, he was directly sent flying by Murong Yu. His hands were numb, and his chi and blood were surging. Murong Yu's physical strength was even more powerful than his. Murong Hao was sent flying? Murong Yu is actually so powerful? Even Murong Hao is not his opponent? Idiot. That is under the condition that he has not used the dragon strength. If he had used the dragon strength, perhaps Murong Yu would not have been his opponent. Murong Yu has more than 100 dragon strength, and Murong Hao is also at the Hotian 9th layer. How can he be Murong Yu's opponent? The moment when Murong Hao was sent flying, the people under the platform began to discuss in shock. This was the first time that they had seen Murong use strength. You're not my opponent in terms of physical strength, so use the dragon strength. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to defeat you. Murong Yu stood in the same place, and his body seemed to have suddenly grown several times, and he looked indifferently at Murong Hao and said. Murong Hao's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Murong Hao and said, As you wish. At the same time, Murong Hao's aura fiercely rose. With a bang, a tyrannical aura burst out from his body, and the void trembled, as if it was being torn apart by him. Then, a white Kuei dragon phantom appeared in the void above his head, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, looking down on the world. Kuei dragon, that's the Kuei dragon. Murong Hao is already a master of the Xiantian realm. He is only 19 years old, a 19-year-old master of the Xiantian realm. At this moment, everyone under the platform was shocked. In this world, breaking into the Xiantian realm at the age of 30 was already considered a genius. Breaking into the Xiantian realm before the age of 20 was considered a genius among geniuses. And Murong Hao was a genius among geniuses. However, in contrast to the surprise of the people under the platform, on the platform, Murong Yang and the others' expressions did not change. It seemed that they had already known that Murong Hao was in the Xiantian realm. I will defeat you in one move. Murong Hao looked at Murong Yu and sneered disdainfully. Then, with a flash of his body, he turned into a phantom and pounced on Murong Yu. In the process, he slapped out, intending to kill Murong Yu directly. How arrogant! Murong Yu sneered, and with a cold shout, he increased his strength. After a dull bang, 110 black flood dragons circled the void above his head, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, murderous. A tyrannical and terrifying aura was released. At this moment, Murong Yu's body was enveloped by a layer of faint black light. Kill! Murong Yu's words were like spring thunder. With a shout, he fiercely charged forward. He directly used the dragon elephant prajna art to attack. Boom! A terrifying force exploded, and the entire platform seemed to shake. The two of them let out a muffled groan and then flew out. Then, the two of them rushed forward again and fought fiercely. Boom! 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 Although Murong Hao was in the Xiantian realm, one Kuei Long was not enough to suppress Murong Yu's 110 dragon strength. After canceling each other out, their dragon strength was about the same. However, Murong Hao's physical strength, or Murong Yu's dragon elephant prajna art, was much stronger. With a punch, Murong Yu's strength seemed to have increased several times, and it exploded the void, violently attacking. Bang! Murong Yu's punch landed on Murong Hao's body, and a violent force exploded, directly sending Murong Hao flying. Murong Hao snorted and used the flying cloud 4 steps. His whole body rose into the air, and he used all kinds of fierce moves, bombarding Murong Yu with earth-shattering attacks. Flying cloud 4 steps? I know it too. Murong Yu sneered in his heart, and also rose into the air, fighting fiercely in the void. Murong Hao, if this is all you have, then admit defeat. As he spoke, Murong Hao stepped in the air. In an instant, he appeared above Murong Hao's head. Chapter 34. Ripping Lung Dragon Claw Kick. Murong Yu roared as he stomped on Murong Yu's Kuei Long Shadow. A terrifying force surged out, causing the Kuei Long Shadow to tremble violently, as if it was about to turn into dust. 10,000 Gene Strength Elephant Step. At this moment, all of Murong Yu's 110 dragon energies were concentrated on his feet. Then, Murong Yu stomped down viciously. Bang! The Kuei Long Shadow shook violently and became even dimmer. At this moment, Murong Hao seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. Under the suppression of the terrifying force, Murong Hao's chi and blood surged. 1,000 Army Elephant Fist. Murong Yu roared again. His fists were surrounded by black light as he rapidly bombarded the Kuei Long Shadow. What is he trying to do? Seeing Murong Yu's frenzied attack, the audience below the stage was puzzled. Even Murong Yang and the others who were on the high platform furrowed their brows. He seems to be trying to tear the Kuei Long apart. Oh right, I remember now. When Murong Hao killed the Yun family's Xiantian master, he also scattered his opponent's Kuei Long Shadow before killing him. Murong Hao's entire body trembled as he continuously received huge impacts. His chi and blood surged like a raging sea. He suddenly roared towards the sky. Murong Yu, you have successfully angered me. Today, I will tear you apart. As he spoke, Murong Hao's chi and blood surged again. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, a second Kuei Long Shadow appeared above Murong Hao's head. 2 Kuei Long Eagles, second sky of the Xiantian realm. Heavens, a 19-year-old second sky of the Xiantian realm. Seeing this, the audience below the stage couldn't help but be shocked. Even the higher-ups of the Murong family on the stage were shocked. Only Murong Hao's father, Murong Dan, stood on the stage with a smile on his face. Looking at his joyful expression, he seemed to be very happy. Go to hell. The power of 2 Kuei dragons was enough to suppress Murong Yu's power of over 100 flood dragons. Murong Hao let out a furious roar, then fiercely struck out with his palm. Bang! Murong Yu simply did not have the strength to fight back, and was directly sent flying. Then, he fell heavily to the corner of the ring. He was almost sent flying out of the ring. Huh! Seeing this scene, the crowd below the stage exclaimed again. After all, the situation had changed too quickly. Some people didn't even have time to react. Whoosh! With the power of 2 Kuei dragons, Murong Hao's power skyrocketed. His speed had more than doubled. The moment Murong Yu fell onto the stage, he had already rushed in front of Murong Yu. Then, a tiger's roar emperor fist blasted towards Murong Yu's head. Murong Yu's body was in pain as if it was being torn apart. The qi and blood in his body were surging like rivers and seas. However, there was no fear in his eyes. The second heaven of the innate stage. Today, I'll kill another innate stage master. As he spoke, Murong Yu slapped the ground with one hand, and his whole body suddenly rose into the air. Rumble, waves of powerful aura burst out from his body, and then black flood dragons kept appearing out of thin air. 200 dragon power. In the blink of an eye, there were 200 black flood dragons hovering in the void above Murong Yu's head. It was earth-shattering, extremely shocking, and spectacular. 200 dragon power. On the high platform, Murong Yang and the others were shocked. They stared at Murong Yu in the ring with a look of disbelief. 200 dragon power. At this moment, except for Murong Yu, everyone present was shocked. Originally, Murong Yu had more than 100 dragon power, which was already far beyond their scope of understanding. But now, he had 200 dragon power. The most shocking thing was that although he already had 200 dragon power, which was comparable to a second heaven of the innate stage master, but Murong Yu's realm was still at the 9th heaven of the acquired stage. How'd he do it? Everyone was deeply shocked. Murong Hao was also shocked, but he still knew that Murong Yu was his opponent. With a cold snort, Murong Hao recovered from his shock. Then, his figure flashed, and he turned into a stream of light, rushing towards Murong Yu. Boom! 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 Murong Yu stepped on the flying cloud 4 steps and rose into the air, fighting with Murong Hao in the void. Their power was really unrestrained, and the void trembled. Terrifying power swept in all directions. 200 flood dragons' power was equivalent to the power of 2 Kuei dragons. In a situation where their power was equal, the Kuei dragon's level suppression was very obvious. At this moment, Murong Yu's body was surging with powerful power. However, he felt as if there was an invisible suppression of a higher level suppressing him from all directions. Under this suppression, Murong Yu couldn't use his full strength. I want you dead. Murong Hao's expression was cold. He used the tiger roar emperor fist and attacked Murong Yu fiercely. Murong Yu stepped on the flying cloud 4 steps and moved, calmly facing Murong Hao's attack. Dragon Elephant Prajna Art. Every time Murong Yu used the Dragon Elephant Prajna Art, a dragon and elephant vision circled around his body. Boom! The two fiercely collided. A terrifying power exploded, and the surrounding void seemed to be torn apart. The powerful force directly sent them flying. They were evenly matched. Even with the suppression of the Kuei dragon, Murong Hao couldn't really suppress Murong Yu. 1,000 Army Elephant Fist. Murong Yu roared in his heart. He stepped on the flying cloud 4 steps and appeared behind Murong Hao and punched Murong Hao's back. Bang! Murong Hao let out a scream, and his whole body was instantly sent flying. As for Murong Yu, he quickly rushed forward and swiftly chopped down with his hand. Murong Hao roared, and the 2 Kuei dragons in the void above his head bared their fangs and brandished their claws. With a swift kick, Murong Yu was sent flying. The second level of the Khanate realm is just SOSO. The 200 black flood dragons in the void above Murong-Yu bared their fangs and brandished their claws and seemed to be roaring. Is that so? Today, I'll make you regret offending me. Murong-Hao sneered, and his body flashed and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Murong-Yu. Boom! The iron fist punched out, shattering the void, and a violent sonic boom rang out. Murong-Yu's eyes flashed with a cold light, and a touch of fear flashed across his face. With a thought, he retreated explosively. However, Murong-Hao's speed was faster. Bang! Crack! Murong-Yu's chest caved in. His bones were broken. Seeing this scene, the crowd below the ring immediately let out a cry of surprise. Murong-Yu is finished. Some people even saw Murong-Hao's fist smashing into Murong-Yu's chest. Murong-Yu's heart was probably shattered. At that moment, the intense pain caused Murong-Yu to let out a furious roar. Die! Murong-Hao's eyes were filled with madness. With a low roar, he exerted strength in his iron fist and was about to kill Murong-Yu. Go to hell! At this moment, Murong-Yu's eyes were filled with a terrifying murderous intent. With a low roar, he threw a punch at Murong-Hao's hand. With a punch, the sky and earth changed color. At this moment, the 200 dragons above Murong-Yu's head roared crazily, as if they were integrated into Murong-Yu's fist. Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard from afar. Murong-Hao let out a mournful and blood-curdling scream. The big hand that he used to hit Murong-Yu's chest had been smashed by Murong-Yu. Murong-Yu was filled with murderous intent, and he didn't care about the fist in his chest. He grabbed Murong-Hao's arm with one hand, and used the other hand to hit Murong-Hao's handsome face fiercely. Bang! Crack! It was the sound of the nose bridge breaking, and it made people's teeth ache. I'll kill you! Murong-Yu was like a madman, and his right iron fist was surrounded by black light, and he punched Murong-Hao's face again and again. Murong-Hao shouted, and gathered his strength to protect his face. But even so, he was still in pain from Murong-Yu's punches. Thousand Army Elephant Fist. Murong-Yu suddenly let go of Murong-Hao's hand. Then, he punched Murong-Hao's body fiercely with both fists. He was directly sent flying. Then, Murong-Yu used the flying cloud 4 steps, and his figure flew up and appeared above Murong-Hao's head. 10,000 Gene, Strength, Elephant Step. Murong-Yu roared, and stepped on Murong-Hao's body fiercely. Bang! Murong-Hao was stepped on by Murong-Yu on the arena. I'll kill you. Murong-Hao was dizzy from the bombardment, and he was bleeding from his 7 orifices, and he roared crazily. If he was not a master of the innate realm, and his body was extremely strong, he would be protected by the innate qi. Moreover, he had the protection of his Xiantian true qi. Otherwise, he would have long been blasted to smithereens by Murong-Yu. But, even so, Murong-Hao was still dizzy from the bombardment, and he coughed up blood. He was almost killed by Murong-Yu. Murong-Yu was extremely angry, and he slapped Murong-Hao's mouth fiercely. Several of his teeth were knocked out. Murong-Yu, you and I can't exist under the same sky. Bang! Before Murong-Hao could finish his words, Murong-Yu slapped him back into his stomach. Aren't you the #1 genius? Aren't you a master of the second sky of the innate realm? Aren't you high and mighty? Now, how does it feel to be stepped on by me? At the same time, Murong-Yu slapped Murong-Hao's face until it was swollen like a pig's head. Even Murong-Hao's father, who was on the high platform, could not recognize him. Murong-Hao was furious, and his strength was constantly erupting, trying to break free from Murong-Yu. However, Murong-Yu's big foot was like a mountain pressing down on his back, making him unable to move. Are you convinced? Murong-Yu asked with a cold snort as he slapped him. Chapter 35. F*CKU. Murong-Hao roared in shock. F*CKU. I'm going to slap you to death. Murong-Yu was furious, and his eyes flashed with cold, killing intent. At this moment, he almost wanted to kill Murong Hao on the spot. However, Murong Yu still had some scruples in his heart and did not dare to kill him. Otherwise, Murong Hao's head would have been smashed. Do you admit defeat? Murong Yu's chest was bleeding, and his vision was turning black. After slapping Murong Hao again, he continued to ask, "I'm going to kill you." Murong Hao roared. "Then you can go to hell." Murong Yu's heart was filled with killing intent. With a low roar, he kicked Murong Hao away. There was a scream from the crowd, and Murong Hao flew away like a kite with a broken string. After that, several figures leaped into the air and caught Murong Hao in the air. Murong Yu glanced at the high platform coldly and met a gaze filled with killing intent. It was Murong Hao's father, who was looking at Murong Yu with resentment. However, what puzzled Murong Yu was that this person was so quiet and did not interfere. However, it did not matter. He had already defeated Murong Hao today. Wow, Murong Hao was defeated. Even the second sky of the nascent realm was not Murong Yu's opponent. Murong Yu is too strong. He deserves to be called the #1 genius of the Murong family, right? What a ferocious way of fighting. Murong Hao was almost beaten to death. Everyone was shocked, and they all looked at Murong Yu with fear in their eyes. After all, Murong Yu was really brutal. At this moment, everyone could even see Murong Yu's sunken chest. Murong Yu took a deep breath, and the pain in his chest almost made him faint. However, at this moment, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. So, this is how it feels to defeat the #1 genius. Among the crowd, Murong Yu no longer felt the disdain, contempt that he had felt in the past. There was only shock and fear. Seeing Murong Yu slowly walk down from the arena, the crowd below unconsciously made way for Murong Yu. Murong Yu died. Suddenly, a furious roar was heard from Murong Yu's side. At the same time, a very strong aura of death rose from the bottom of his heart. Involuntarily, Murong Yu wanted to dodge. However, he was injured and his speed was much slower than before. Chi! Just as Murong Yu's body moved, a long sword came from behind him and directly pierced through Murong Yu's heart. At this moment, Murong Yu was shocked. Murong Yu's heart burned with rage as he looked at the tip of the sword that had pierced through his chest, still dripping with his own blood. At this moment, the crowd was shocked. When they saw this scene, they were so shocked that they couldn't speak. "Ha ha, you're still not dead." Murong Ji's eyes were filled with hatred, and he laughed loudly with both hands holding the sword, looking very pleased. "Murong Ji, die." Murong Yu abruptly turned around. An enormous force erupted from him and broke the long sword in Murong Ji's hand. Then, in anger, Murong Yu slapped down hard. Bang! Murong Ji's crazy laughter stopped abruptly, and at the same time, Murong Yu slapped Murong Ji's head. Accompanied by a muffled sound, Murong Ji's head was immediately smashed, and his brain juice splattered everywhere. A slap smashed Murong Ji's head. At the same time, Murong Yu's body swayed, and his vision turned black, and he fell down just like that. Murong Ji launched a sneak attack and stabbed Murong Yu with his sword, but in the end his head was smashed by Murong Yu's slap, and he died. This immediately shocked Murong's family, and even outside Murong's family. Murong Yu didn't know how big a shock it caused. This was because the moment he killed Murong Ji, his consciousness also fainted. In the room, Murong Yang and the others looked at Murong Yu, who was lying on the bed, and frowned deeply. At this time, Murong Yu's body was faintly circulating a layer of black light. His breath was calm, and his breathing was steady. If they hadn't seen Murong Yu's heart being pierced by a long sword with their own eyes, and if they hadn't seen Murong Yu's collapsed chest, when they saw Murong Yu like this, they would have thought that he was really sleeping. In fact, if someone could see Murong Yu's body, they would be shocked. This was because even when his consciousness was asleep, the chaotic celestial record automatically operated and began to repair his injured body. In fact, Murong Yang and the others could see that Murong Yu's physical injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Patriarch, Murong, you should be fine, right? Seeing that Murong Yu's physical injuries had basically healed, but he hadn't woken up yet, Murong Bai frowned slightly and asked, "It's fine, as long as he's not dead. After taking the recovery pill, even if all his bones are shattered, he can quickly recover," Murong Yang said in a deep voice. However, as he spoke, Murong Yang revealed a pained expression. The recovery pill was an elixir in the cultivation world, and its medicinal power was extremely strong. However, there was almost no such elixir circulating in the secular world. Even Murong Yang's family only had a limited number of such elixirs. Any elixir that was circulated would have a sky-high price. It was a high-grade item that was priceless. "What should we do now?" Looking at Murong Yu, Murong Bai said with some worry. Murong Yu was almost killed by Murong Ji, but Murong Yu didn't die. However, Murong Ji was slapped to death by Murong Yu. On that day, Murong Dan and the others almost killed Murong Yu. If Murong Yang didn't appear, Murong Yu would have been killed by them. Murong Ji is at fault. Murong Yu is completely right. If they still dare to pursue this matter. Murong Yang's eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. Murong Yu cultivated for a few months and reached the acquired 9th heavenly layer. Moreover, in this realm, he actually had the power of 200 dragons. Such aptitude was rare in the world. Even in the cultivation world, the top 10 sects didn't have such a genius. Therefore, Murong Yang concluded that if Murong Yu participated in the cultivation conference, it would definitely cause the major sects to fight over him. With his aptitude, it wouldn't take many years for him to gain a foothold in the cultivation world. He would even have his own power. One must know that as long as he joined those major sects and had a certain status, Murong clan status would naturally rise. This was the so-called when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. Compared to Murong Yu, Murong Ji was a waste. Even Murong Hao, the former #1 genius, was far inferior to Murong Yu. Therefore, no matter what, Murong Yang couldn't allow Murong Yu to suffer any losses. "I'm afraid Murong Bai won't let it go." Murong Bai muttered, "Humph, as long as I'm here, I'll see who dares to touch him." Murong Yang was really angry. Murong Ji's sword not only almost stabbed Murong Yu to death, but also almost stabbed the future of Murong clan. If it wasn't for the fact that Murong Ji was already dead, Murong Yang would have already slapped this bastard to death. Murong Ji is dead. I'm afraid that the cultivation world. Murong Bai was still worried. Murong Yang also muttered to himself. Although he was the head of Murong clan, there were some people that couldn't be offended. Just like Murong Ji's mother. Murong Ji's mother was a cultivator in the cultivation world, and she had a lot of power in the sect. If she knew that Murong Ji was dead, and if she pursued the matter, even Murong Yang wouldn't be able to protect Murong Yu. The cultivation conference is about to begin. When the time comes, as long as we send Murong Yu over with his aptitude, all the major sects will fight over him. No one will dare to make things difficult for Murong Yu. Murong Yang said with a gloomy face. Bang! Murong Dan slapped the table in front of him into pieces. His murderous appearance was extremely terrifying. "Father, is the clan head really protecting Murong Yu?" Murong Hao stood next to him. His face was also gloomy and murderous. Murong Dan just nodded coldly. His heart was burning with anger. If it wasn't for Murong Yang protecting Murong Yu, he would have already killed Murong Yu. However, in Murong's home, he couldn't do anything. "I can only tell Mother about this matter. Murong Yu must die. Whoever dares to stop me will die." Murong Hao's face was ferocious, his face full of murderous intent. Murong Dan nodded, pondered for a long time, and then said, "In the following time, don't act rashly. I'm going to the cultivation world." It seemed like a lifetime had passed, but it also seemed like only a moment had passed. On this day, Murong Yu groaned unconsciously and then slowly opened his eyes. When he opened his eyes, Murong Yu suddenly felt a little dizzy. After lying on the bed for a while, Murong Yu woke up. And all the injuries are healed? The first thing he thought of when he woke up was the assassination by Murongji. However, when he looked at his chest, he found that there was no wound on his body. Not only the injuries are healed, but also Murongju's face slightly changed. Then, he jumped up from the bed and quickly closed the door. Then, with a thought, he entered the Hichu Luoshu world. In the Hichu Luoshu world, Murongju's figure just appeared. He directly sat cross-legged on the ground and then began to cultivate. The moment he woke up, Murongju found that not only his injuries were healed, even his realm had some changes. He was about to break through to the Xiantian realm. Boom! After half a day, Murongju's body shook fiercely. An aura 10 times more terrible than before, or even stronger, burst out from his body. Crack! It was like a layer of window paper had been pierced. At this moment, the barrier between the Xiantian realm and the Hotian realm was directly shattered by Murongju's powerful strength. At this moment, Murongju finally stepped into the Xiantian realm from the Hotian realm. He had become an expert in the secular world. Rumble in the void above his head, 200 black flood dragons were circling, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, constantly roaring, as if they were struggling. However, the moment Murongju broke through the realm, a purer and more powerful strength than before burst out from his body. Chapter 36. Rip! An invisible hand suddenly appeared in the void and crushed the 200 flood dragon shadows in the void above his head. Roar! After a deafening roar, a black Kuei dragon appeared above Murongju's head. Roar! 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 After the appearance of the first Kuei dragon, another 4 heaven-shaking dragon roars resounded in succession. 1 Kuei dragon silhouette, 2 Kuei dragon silhouettes, 3, 5. A total of 5 Kuei dragons. Finally, when there were 5 Kuei dragons hovering above Murongju's head, there was no more Kuei dragons. Murongju was only at the first level of the Xiantian realm, but he had the strength of 5 Kuei dragons. That was equivalent to an ordinary 5th level of the Xiantian realm. At this moment, the black energy in Murongju's meridians was like a torrent, constantly washing over his meridians. With a thought, Murongju could see the situation in his body. Inner vision. After reaching the Xiantian realm, one could use inner vision. At this moment, he saw the black energy rampaging through his meridians. With every collision, his meridians were torn apart and then reformed. Murongju's body was enveloped by a layer of black light. Murongju couldn't help but cry out. First, it was because his meridians were constantly being torn apart, and second, it was because his strength was gradually increasing. The black energy was like a torrent, not only expanding Murongju's meridians, it was also constantly tempering Murongju's body. After a long time, the Kuei dragon above Murongju's head gradually dissipated. The black light that hovered around his body also disappeared into his body. Murongju suddenly opened his eyes, shooting out 2 terrifying beams of light. What powerful strength! If I were to meet Murongju again, I'm confident that I can kill him with 1 punch. Murongju's eyes flashed, and a smile appeared on his face. Looking at his own body, the smile on Murongju's face became even brighter. Apart from an increase in strength to the strength of the 5 Kuei dragons, my physical body has also undergone a transformation. At this moment, even if Murongji were to stab me with all his strength, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to hurt me. Murongju's body had become extremely powerful after being tempered by the Xiantian True Qi. However, he didn't know what grade it had reached because he didn't have any reference. However, he could vaguely feel that ordinary Hotian realm martial artists were unable to harm his body. What made Murongju the happiest was the increase in his lifespan. An ordinary person only had a lifespan of about 100 years. Some elders might have a lifespan of more than 100 years, but it was extremely rare. Even if he was at the peak of the 9th level of the Hotian realm, he would only have a lifespan of 200 years at most. However, when Murongju broke through to the Xiantian realm, he felt that his lifespan had increased greatly. Vaguely, it seemed to have increased to 500 years. 500 years of lifespan was equivalent to 500 years. Legend had it that ordinary people at the peak of the 9th level of the Hoteon realm only had a lifespan of 500 years at most. However, Muronyu had just stepped into the Xiantian realm, and his lifespan had reached 500 years. Muronyu was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, with the continuous enhancement of his cultivation, he began to feel some of the secrets of his body. The chaotic celestial body. In addition to giving him more strength than people at the same level, his lifespan was also much longer than ordinary cultivators. Reaching the Xiantian realm in 3 months is not bad. However, with such a cultivation, you can't even be considered to have started cultivating. Hichu appeared beside Muronyu and said in a deep voice. Muronyu is already used to this. After all, Hichu was the spirit of the Hichu Luoshu world. As long as he was in the Hichu Luoshu world, he could appear in any corner at any time as long as he wanted to. After breaking through to the Xiantian realm, he had the strength of 5 Kuei dragons. His lifespan had increased to 500 years. He was much more powerful than cultivators at the same level. Especially his lifespan. Muronyu's lifespan was close to the lifespan of a master at the peak of the Xiantian realm. After leaving the Hichu Luoshu world, Muronyu left the room. At this time, he found that the place he was in was actually a courtyard, although it was not very big or luxurious. But it was an independent courtyard. It must be the place where Murongyang asked Muronyu to move. Since he'd been brought here, Muronyu naturally didn't mind. However, to his surprise, there were actually other servants in the courtyard besides him. In other words, there were servants who served Muronyu in his daily life. When these people found that Muronyu had left the room, their faces immediately showed a happy expression. Then, as if thinking of something, their eyes were dodging and full of fear. These servants were Murong's servants. Among these people, there were even people who had bullied Muronyu. Now, not only had they become Murongyu's servants, but they also thought of the scene not long ago when Murongyu killed Murongji. He defeated Murong Hao and killed Murongji. Murongyu had become the #1 genius of the Murong clan, and at the same time, he was notorious for being fierce. Feeling the fear in the eyes of these servants, Murongyu just sneered. When he had first gained power, he had vowed to take revenge on all those who had bullied him. However, now that he thought about it, Murongyu felt that it was somewhat laughable. These servants were of low status and were just dogs relying on their master's power. Now that Murongyu had become so powerful, these people were no different from ants. With his status, he naturally would not continue to bicker with these people. "Come here." Murongyu stood in the courtyard and said to a female servant. The female servant's eyes revealed a trace of fear, but she still braced herself and came over. Then, she respectfully said, "Young master, what orders do you have for this servant? How many days have I been unconscious?" 10 days, the servant carefully said. 10 days? Murongyu slightly frowned. He did not expect that he had been unconscious for 10 days. However, breaking through to the Xiantian realm after 10 days was not bad. 10 days, which means that the cultivation assembly is about to begin. I wonder if the Yun clan has made any moves, Murongyu thought to himself. After ordering the servant to leave, he left the Murong clan. After breaking through to the Xiantian realm, the small Yun clan was no longer in Murongyu's eyes. However, Li Feng and the others would not be able to resist. I hope the Yun clan does not come out to stir up trouble. Otherwise, I don't mind directly eliminating them to fulfill Li Feng's wish. Murongyu sneered in his heart and walked towards the Blessing Assembly building. Without the suppression of the Yun clan, the business of the Blessing Assembly building became better and better. Originally, the business of the Blessing Assembly building was not bad. It was also because of this that the Yun clan coveted the Blessing Assembly building. Little Feng. Murongyu directly found the busy Li Feng. "Ha! Little you, I heard that you displayed your invincible might and defeated Murong Hao and killed Murongji." The moment he saw Murongyu, Li Feng handed over his work to the restaurant worker and directly rushed out. Li Feng's voice was not very loud, but it was enough to spread through the entire first floor. After hearing Li Feng's words, the customers in the restaurant immediately turned their gaze towards Murong Yu. He is Murong Yu? The person who defeated the #1 genius of the Murong clan. Murong Hao? I heard that a few months ago he was still a trash. Maybe he was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. This person is very powerful and even killed a Xiantian expert of the Yun clan. Do you believe that a person who is only cultivated for a few months has such terrifying strength? Not necessarily. Maybe he really is a genius. Little Feng, did the Yun clan make things difficult for you these past few days? Murong Yu asked in a deep voice after sitting down in a room. Their Xiantian expert was killed by you. Will they still dare to touch us? However, it's hard to say. If you go to the cultivation assembly, I'm afraid that they will make a move on us, Li Feng said with a bitter smile. The Yun clan was a clan. Although it was a small clan, it still had its own power. As for the Li clan, Li Feng's father, Li Gua, built the Blessing Assembly building from scratch. Although they also had a certain amount of power, they were far inferior to the Yun clan. Moreover, Li Feng and the other two were not martial artists. Li Feng only knew a few basic kung fu moves. Now that Murong Yu was supporting the Blessing Assembly building, the Yun clan might not dare to touch them. If Murong Yu were to leave, the Li clan would immediately be attacked by the Yun clan. A cold light flashed through Murong Yu's eyes. In Murong Yu's world, apart from his deceased parents, Zhao Jiqing and Li Feng were the only ones who treated him well. Murong Yu even treated Li Feng and Li Feng as his family. This time, when he went to the cultivation world, he would definitely not turn back. As for Zhao Jiqing, with her talent, she could naturally enter the cultivation world. As for Li Feng and Li Feng, they naturally became the only people that Murong Yu was worried about. In fact, the Li clan had helped Murong Yu a lot in these past few years. Before going to the cultivation world, I must deal with Li Feng's matter. At least, I can guarantee that Li Feng and Li Feng will be safe for the rest of their lives, Murong Yu thought. The first thing he thought of was Murong's clan. With Murong Yu's current status in the Li clan, as long as he said the word, the Murong clan would naturally take care of the Blessing Assembly building. With the support of a colossus like the Murong clan, who would dare to touch the Blessing Assembly building? That's the only way. On the way back, Murong Yu had already thought about this matter. Although he had become a Xiantian realm expert, he had no one he could rely on. He could only rely on the Murong clan. At this time, Murong Yu walked into a relatively secluded alley. All of a sudden, Murong Yu's sharp senses detected a murderous aura coming his way. At the same time, a sword light soared into the sky from the alley. It enveloped Murong Yu and sealed off the void. Then, it rapidly moved towards Murong Yu. At the same time, an extremely tyrannical aura swept over from all directions, wanting to kill Murong Yu. A Xiantian realm expert. A cold light flashed across Murong Yu's eyebrows. He immediately shouted and punched the sword light in front of him. Boom! After an earth-shattering sound, the sword light was directly shattered and dissipated into the void. Murong Yu was also pushed back several steps by the huge force. Chapter 37. Seeing that Murong Yu had dispersed the sword light with a single punch, someone exclaimed in surprise. But soon, the second sword ray seemed to shatter the void as it shot toward Murong Yu with a dazzling radiance. At the same time, a black-clothed man appeared not far in front of Murong Yu. Murong Yu increased his strength, roared, and punched out. Once again, the sword light was shattered. At the same time, he took the 4 steps of the flying cloud, covering 30 feet with each step. Black light gathered in his fist as he punched towards the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man snorted as the sword in his hand bloomed with sword light. A murderous aura filled the alley and shrouded Murong Yu. Boom! 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 Murong Yu roared as he used the Tiger Roar Imperial Fist to fight the black-clothed man for a few rounds. Assassin, After a few rounds, Murongyu's clothes were torn apart by the black-clothed man's swordlight. If his body had not been strengthened when he broke through to the Khanate realm, he would have been killed. But the black-clothed man was not in a good mood. However, the black-clothed assassin wasn't having a good time either. Murongyu's punch had probably shattered his bones. "Who are you?" Murongyu's eyes flashed coldly as he asked in a deep voice. "The person who will kill you." A hoarse voice was heard as the black-clothed man turned into a phantom and rushed towards him. During this process, countless sword rays soared into the sky and shot towards Murongyu. Boom! At the same time, two Kuei dragons appeared above the black-clothed man's head and roared as they charged towards Murongyu. Second firmament of the Khanate realm? Murongyu sneered in his heart, but he did not use the dragon power. He only took the 4 steps of the flying cloud and moved around the alley like a dragon. While dodging the opponent's sword light, he increased his combat experience. Yes, although the opponent was at the second firmament of the Khanate realm, his realm was higher than Murongyu's. But he was not a threat to Murongyu at all. Since that was the case, Murongyu naturally would not end the battle immediately. His strength was gradually increasing, but his combat experience was pitiful. Using the 4 cloud steps and the tiger's roar imperial fist, Murongyu was able to maneuver around the black-clothed assassin's skyrocketing sword rays. In the beginning, Murongyu's clothes were torn apart by the opponent's sword rays. But after fighting for a while, he became more proficient. The opponent's assassin could not do anything. As if sensing Murongyu's intentions, the black-clothed assassin flew into a rage. He raised his strength to his limit. He wanted to kill Murongyu. It was just that Murongyu was much stronger than him. "Where do you think you're going?" The black-robed man feinted and slashed out a sword light. Then his figure flashed, and he was about to retreat. How could Murongyu allow him to escape? With a low roar, Zhang Xian turned into a shadow and chased after Zhang Xian. Chi! But right at that moment, a tyrannical and frightening sword ray tore through the air from the other side, quickly heading for Murongyu. Murongyu sneered inwardly. He abruptly turned around and threw out a punch. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, Murongyu shattered the sword ray with a single punch. However, he was also sent flying by a huge force. With a bang, Murongyu smashed through a wall and fell to the ground. What terrifying strength! Murongyu was shocked. He took a look at his fist and realized that there was a ghastly wound on it. It was so deep that his bones could be seen. This person is at least at the 3rd firmament of the Khanate realm. Murongyu muttered, "Die!" Countless sword rays tore through the void and enveloped Murongyu from all directions. In addition to the previous black-clothed assassin, there was an even more powerful black-clothed assassin. He turned into a stream of light and strangled. Chi! The shocking sword light seemed to tear through the void and shatter heaven and earth. It strangled Murongyu. Murongyu smashed the ground with his palm and used the force to leap into the air. He stepped on the flying cloud 4 steps and was about to avoid the black-clothed assassin's attack. However, the black-clothed assassin was extremely fast. He was like a shadow attached to the body, like a gangrene attached to the bones. He quickly strangled Murongyu. In fact, Murongyu could already feel the frightening killing intent and bone-chilling coldness contained within the sword ray when it was still halfway through its path. He's definitely an expert. Murongyu was shocked, but he became calmer. Elephant drawing fist. Murongyu roared. Above his head, 5 extremely condensed black Kuei dragons bloomed. They emitted a terrifying aura that shook heaven and earth. Stepping on the flying cloud 4 steps, Murongyu's body swayed. His speed soared. He turned into a stream of light and pounced on the weaker black-clothed assassin. Boom! Just as Murongyu's figure disappeared from his original position, the sword ray that was tearing through the air slashed into a wall. After an earth-shattering sound, the tall wall was immediately pulverized by the terrifying sword light. Die! At this moment, Murongyu had already rushed to the weaker black-clothed assassin. He shouted and slapped down hard. The black-clothed assassin's eyes were filled with fear. He found that he had been locked on by Murongyu. There was no escape. With a hideous laugh, the void above the black-clothed assassin's head tore open. 3 Kuei dragons rushed out. At the same time, the black-clothed assassin's aura rose to the limit. He slashed out a shocking sword light and strangled Murongyu. Murongyu's eyes flashed with cold light. The power of the 5 Kuei dragons gathered in his hand, and he slapped down hard. Bang! Crack! The black-clothed assassin's sword light was immediately shattered. At the same time, an extremely tyrannical aura slammed into the black-clothed assassin's long sword. After a crisp sound, the black-clothed assassin's long sword actually broke into pieces. It was actually directly shattered by Murongyu's slap. However, Murongyu's big hand did not stop. He slapped directly on the black-clothed assassin's chest. Bang! The black-clothed assassin's chest immediately collapsed. The tyrannical power wreaked havoc in his body, instantly crushing his internal organs. Chi! Just as Murongyu killed the black-clothed assassin, another assassin's shocking sword light came at him again. Murongyu, who had the power of the 5 Kuei dragons, was surrounded by a black power. At this moment, he was like a demon god standing proudly between heaven and earth. A surge of battle intent burst out from his body and soared into the sky. With power in hand, the world was mine. Murongyu stomped the ground under his feet, and his body soared into the sky. With a flying cloud 4 steps, he rushed up like a shooting star. Kill! Murongyu roared. The black power in his right hand exploded, and he punched out at the sword light coming at him. Rumble! After an earth-shattering explosion, Murongyu let out a muffled groan. As if he had suffered a heavy blow, his entire body was instantly sent flying. On the other hand, the sword ray only dimmed a little before continuing its trajectory towards Murongyu. What a terrifying sword light! Murongyu's chi and blood surged like a raging sea. A trace of bright red blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. With a loud bang, a house behind him was smashed into pieces. He slapped the ground with his big hand, and his entire body was instantly sent flying. After an earth-shattering explosion, the shocking sword light violently slashed the ground, creating a huge crack that was more than 10 meters long. It was extremely shocking. Chi! 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 The black-clothed man's eyes were indifferent. The cyan steel sword in his hand danced, creating a dazzling and deadly sword light that sealed the sky and earth. He crazily attacked Murongyu. Murongyu roared. The black power in his body soared into the sky. The 5 Kuei dragons bared their fangs and brandished their claws, constantly roaring. Murongyu used the flying cloud 4 steps and the dragon elephant prajna technique to attack the black-clothed man. Bang! 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 One sword light after another was shattered by Murongyu. However, there were more sword lights that came tearing at him. After Murongyu shattered 5 sword rays in a row, Murongyu's expression changed. Finally, Murongyu let out a muffled groan and was sent flying. His clothes were torn and a shocking wound appeared on his body. It was so deep that his bones could be seen. It almost cut Murongyu in half. This person is probably at the 4th firmament of the Khanate realm. Murongyu's pupils constricted. Ever since the black-clothed man appeared, he had not used the strength of the dragon. Just a casual slash of the sword had almost killed Murongyu. Boom! Murongyu shattered another sword light with a punch. However, he was also sent flying. Another terrifying sword light appeared on his body. This time, the terrifying sword light almost cut off his left hand. Cough, cough. After a round of battle, the alley was almost razed to the ground. Murongyu, on the other hand, was also heavily injured. His aura was in chaos, and his body was covered in shocking wounds that were so deep that his bones could be seen. His body was dyed red with blood. On the other hand, the black-clothed man did not show any signs of defeat from the beginning to the end. In just a casual slash, he almost killed Murongyu. If this continues, I'll definitely die. Muron Yu thought to himself. Although his life wasn't in danger yet, he knew that he would definitely die. Although his life was not yet at risk, his opponent had not used his full strength. Although Muron Yu was strong, he was only at the first firmament of the Khanate realm. The black-clothed man was at least at the fourth firmament of the Khanate realm. He was 3 levels higher than Muron Yu and had the strength of at least 5 Kuei dragons. Enough. Die. The black-clothed man slashed out a sword light and sent Muron Yu flying. At this moment, his eyes showed a trace of impatience, and his aura began to rise rapidly. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Like a stormy sea, the terrifying aura sent Muron Yu flying. The strength of 10 dragons. Seeing the 10 Kuei dragons hovering above the black-clothed man's head, Muron Yu shouted in shock. At the same time, his face showed a bitter expression. It turned out that the black-clothed man had been toying with him all this time and did not take him seriously. This made Muron Yu furious, but there was nothing he could do. Just now, wasn't he just toying with the black-clothed man that he killed? Who wants to kill me? Muron Yu shouted coldly. The black-clothed man did not speak. He only slashed out with his sword. Chi! The shocking sword light was like the sun in the sky, releasing a terrifying and dazzling light. When the sword slashed out, even the void seemed to be shattered. Chapter 38. A violent sonic boom spread. At this moment, Muron Yu felt a strong sense of death. He knew that he could not take this blow no matter what. If he took it head-on, he was afraid that he would be directly torn into powder by this terrible sword light. One day, I will kill you with my own hands. Muron Yu looked at the man in black with a cold expression. When the sword light tore through, his body shook and disappeared. Rumble. Endless sword light poured down like a river of stars, directly tearing all the buildings within a radius of dozens of meters into powder. However, Muron Yu had disappeared. The man in black finally changed his expression. He did not naively think that Muron Yu had been hacked into powder by him. He clearly saw that Muron Yu had suddenly disappeared. Could it be a cultivator? The man in black's eyes flashed with a frightening light. Muron Yu suddenly disappeared. Only a cultivator had the ability to do so. However, if a cultivator really intervened, the man in black was no match for him at all. The man in black's eyes showed that he was pondering, but he did not immediately leave. At this moment, Muron Yu, who had disappeared outside, appeared in the Hichu Luoshu world. Hichu Luoshu, the first book in the world, was a top magic treasure. Muron Yu was not worried that the man in black could find him. However, when Muron Yu appeared in the Hichu Luoshu world, Hichu was already standing there waiting for him. He too, on the other hand, was holding a black, ordinary-looking spear that was about 10 feet long. The most powerful part of the chaotic celestial body is the physical body. It is best at close combat, and a suitable weapon can make your combat power to the fullest. Hichu looked at Muron Yu and said, "You can't defeat the black-clothed man now, not only because you are weaker than him, but also because you don't have a suitable divine weapon," Hichu said. Muron Yu felt the same way and nodded his head. During the battle with the black-robed man, he had shattered the black-robed man's sword with a single punch. When he faced the last black-clothed man, his body was almost cut in half. However, he was only left with a few ghastly wounds. If it was an ordinary first sky of a Xiantian realm master, he would have been chopped into pieces. This long spear is the weapon that has accompanied your teacher throughout his life. It is one of the most powerful divine weapons in the world. However, when your teacher died, the spear was almost shattered and was reduced to the level of a magic tool today. At this point, Hichu's eyes revealed a hint of sorrow. Back then, Zhao Yin was known as the war god. With his phoenix spear, Hichu Luoshu, and his celestial chaos body, he was one of the most powerful people in the world. Unfortunately, in the end, he was framed by a scoundrel and perished in the end. Even his famous weapons, the Phoenix Spear, and Hichu Luoshu were reduced by countless grades and were lost to the mortal world. Morongyu took the black spear and looked at it. Suddenly, a sense of familiarity appeared in his heart. It was as if the spear was related to him by blood. Vaguely, Morongyu felt a sense of familiarity. Looking at the spear in his hand, Morongyu stood beside him. A familiar thought rose from the bottom of his heart. Hichu, don't worry. I will definitely let the celestial chaos body, let you and the Phoenix Spear regain its former glory. Conquer the world. I will also kill all of my teacher's enemies. I will avenge him. Murongyu's teacher, the previous owner of Hichu Luoshu and the Phoenix Spear, the supreme existence known as the War God, Zhao Yun. The black-clothed assassin stood in place with a deep frown. After searching for a long time, he still didn't find anything. Chi! At this moment, a black spear appeared out of thin air behind him. The void crumbled as a terrifying aura erupted, capable of destroying the heaven and earth. The black spear shattered the void and roared like a hidden dragon. It turned into a black stream of light and tore at the black-clothed assassin. The black spear didn't have a terrifying aura or a monstrous divine light. It was just an ordinary-looking spear with nothing special about it. However, the black-clothed assassin didn't think so. In his knowledge, this black spear was extremely terrifying. At that moment, the black-clothed assassin saw a scene of thousands of soldiers and horses fighting in front of him. It was spectacular, tragic, and incomparably cruel. Endless murderous aura soared into the sky and swept through the world. Chi! The black-clothed assassin was shocked. He slashed out with the sword in his hand, slashing out a sword ray that tore through the sky to kill the black spear. Bang! The black spear slowly stabbed out, but it was also extremely fast. It gently tapped on the sword ray that could destroy heaven and earth and tear through the void. After an explosion, the dazzling and shocking sword ray was instantly shattered. The black spear pierced through the sky and directly pierced towards the black-clothed assassin. The black-clothed assassin was shocked and flew back. He waved his hand and streaks of sword ray that could destroy heaven and earth soared into the sky. It was as if the void had been shattered into pieces. It was like a net that came down from the sky and enveloped the black spear. Die! After the spear, Morongyu seemed to have torn through the void and appeared. In fact, he rushed out from the Hichu Luoshu world. Morongyu took 4 steps and held the black spear in his hand. He turned into a black stream of light and locked on to the black-clothed assassin. Like a shadow, he directly stabbed at him. The black spear was the personal divine weapon of Murongyu's teacher, the god of war Zhao Yun. Although this divine weapon fell into the mortal world with Zhao Yun's death and became a low-level magic weapon, but this magic weapon was extremely powerful. It was far more powerful than the ordinary weapons of the mortal world, because only immortal cultivators could have magic weapons. Looking at the sword ray that covered the sky and earth, Murongyu's fighting spirit sword. He shouted, and the black spear in his hand shook. A fist of black light shot out from the black spear and transformed into millions of black spear shadows that strangled in all directions. Chi chi chi. The void seemed to be broken by the millions of spear shadows. The countless sword rays that the black-clothed assassin sent out were unable to withstand a single blow from these spear shadows and were directly shattered. Murongyu sneered in his heart. Like a flood, power gushed out from his arm and poured into the black spear in his hand. Bang! The black spear fiercely shook and a terrifying aura suddenly burst out. The void shattered, destroying heaven and earth. Magic weapon. The black-clothed assassin's eyes flashed with a trace of horror, and he shouted in a low voice. He slashed out a sword ray and then turned to flee. Magic weapons were weapons used by immortal cultivators. Even the lowest-level magic weapon could easily kill a Sciention expert. Even a Hodian realm cultivator could easily kill a Sciention realm expert with a magic weapon. Although the black-clothed assassin had the strength of 10 dragons, Murongyu himself had the strength of 5 dragons. There was a difference of 5 Kuei dragons between the two of them. Originally, it should have been an overwhelming advantage. However, the moment Murong Yu's black spear appeared, this advantage immediately crumbled. "Where do you think you're going?" Murong Yu roared and quickly chased after the assassin. In the process, the black spear in his hand pierced through the sky and shot toward the black-clothed assassin. Horrified, the black-clothed assassin turned and slashed out with his sword. "Break for me!" Murong Yu roared as his black spear transformed into a huge black dragon. With a roar, the dragon's black claw swiped down. Bang! The sword in the black-clothed assassin's hand was like a piece of paper, and it was directly shattered. The terrifying power sent the black-clothed assassin flying. How terrifying! The black-clothed assassin spat out a mouthful of blood. His meridians had already been shattered by the black spear. "Die!" Murong Yu took a step forward. The black spear in his hand pierced through the void and viciously stabbed toward the black-clothed assassin's head. "Kill!" The black-clothed assassin seemed to know that he couldn't escape Murong Yu's attack. At this moment, he gathered all his strength. The 10 dragons above his head were incomparably condensed and let out an earth-shattering roar. With a roar, the black-clothed assassin flipped his hands. His fists were like 2 mountains. He gathered the strength of 10 dragons and viciously punched the black spear, trying to send it flying. However, the magic weapon's strength was beyond his expectations. Bang! When the black-clothed assassin's fists landed on the black spear shook violently. A ring of black light suddenly exploded and swept in all directions. Crack! Crack! The black-clothed assassin let out a shrill scream. Both of his fists had already exploded. They were directly shattered by the black spear. "Die!" Murong Yu roared, and the power in his hands exploded. The black spear shattered the sky and directly shattered the black-clothed assassin's hands. It viciously pierced his head. Bang! The violent power exploded and the black-clothed assassin's head was instantly shattered, turning into a pile of minced meat. The assassin at the 4th firmament of the Khanate realm was directly killed by Murong Yu. Bang! Murong Yu fell from the void and onto the ground. Murong Yu looked at the 2 black-clothed men's corpses and the destroyed alleyway. He slung the black spear on his back and strode out of the room. Perhaps it was because the alleyway was too quiet, but the loud noise from the battle didn't attract any powerhouses. Until Murong Yu left the alley, no one appeared. The black spear hung on Murong Yu's back in a broken state. It was as inconspicuous as an ordinary weapon. Even if the cultivators in the immortal cultivation world saw it, they wouldn't be able to tell that the black spear was a magic weapon. It was because of this that Murong Yu dared to carry it on his back. Otherwise, if it revealed a monstrous aura, he wouldn't dare to use it at all. He still understood the principle of treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. Murong Yu shattered in a flash and hung on his body like a piece of cloth. His body was riddled with ghastly wounds that were so deep that even his bones could be seen. Chapter 39. Walking on the street. The passers-by were all shocked by Murong Yu's appearance. They all looked at him with astonishment. However, Murong Yu was too lazy to pay attention to these people. He just walked quickly towards Murong's house. At this moment, Murong Yu's heart was burning with anger. Those 2 men in black were obviously assassins. Who would hire assassins to assassinate him? It was none other than the Yun family or Murong Dan. After all, they were the only ones who had a grudge against Murong Yu. No matter who wants to kill me, they must die. Murong Yu's heart was filled with murderous intent. He quickly walked towards Murong's house. Murong's house, in the courtyard where Murong Yu previously lived. At this moment, Murong Yang was about to leave this place. After receiving a servant's report that Murong Yu had recovered, Murong Yang took care of the matters at hand and came here alone to visit Murong Yu. Murong Yang was the current head of the Murong family. He was extremely powerful. Not only did he have the power to cover the sky with one hand, but he also had a pivotal position in the entire Great Xia dynasty. As the head of the family, He actually came to visit Murong-yu again and again. One must know that Murong-yu is only a collateral descendant of Murong's family. Even some of the elders in Murong's family were not worthy of Murong-yu's concern. In fact, this was not because of Murong-yu's aptitude. The ninth level of the Hotian realm, the strength of 200 dragons. If Murong-yu was allowed to grow up and enter an immortal sect, it was possible that he would have already become an immortal. Becoming an immortal, achieving immortality. This was not only something that the secular world hoped for, but also the goal of everyone in the immortal cultivation world. If Murong-yu became an immortal and ascended, then Murong's family would have an immortal. As the saying goes, when a man attains the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to the heavens. If Murong's family really had an immortal, in that case, the Murong clan would naturally rise in status, and it was even possible for them to become a cultivation clan in one fell swoop. For Murong Yang's actions, most of the Murong family members were puzzled, but more of them were jealous. However, they were just jealous. Who asked them to not have Murong use heaven-defying aptitude? Murong was about to leave the courtyard. However, at this moment, a figure with a murderous aura and a hint of bloody smell quickly walked in from outside. What a dense, murderous aura. Murong Yang frowned and looked over. In the next moment, he was shocked. A bloody man. A murderous, bloody man. And this bloody man was Murong-yu, whom he wanted to visit. Murong-yu, what the hell is going on? Seeing the shocking wounds on Murong-yu's body, even Murong Yang couldn't help but feel a strong, murderous intent rising in his heart. Seeing that it was Murong Yang, Murong-yu bowed slightly, and then said indifferently, "It's nothing. I was just assassinated." Although Murong-yu's voice was calm, it contained a strong, murderous intent. Assassinated? Murong Yang flew into a rage, and a terrifying, murderous aura burst out from his body. Who the hell wants to assassinate you? Murong Yang was very angry in his heart. Murong-yu was an expert of a young generation that Murong's family had focused on cultivating. He was in existence with the possibility of becoming an immortal, and he absolutely couldn't be lost. Now, someone wanted to assassinate Murong-yu. This had already offended Murong Yang's reverse scale in his heart. A thought flashed in his mind, and Murong Dan and his son suddenly appeared in Murong-yu's eyes. Because before, Murong-yu had killed Murong-ji. No matter who it is, whoever dares to touch my Murong's family's disciple must die. At this moment, Murong Yang's eyes burst with endless murderous intent. The terrible murderous intent burst out, and even the surrounding temperature dropped a few degrees. Murong-yu didn't have any reaction to this. In his heart, he felt that this was the reaction that Murong Yang should have. You heal first. I'll send someone to give you the elixir later. I'll deal with this matter. I want to see who dares to touch Murong's family's people. Murong Yang checked Murong-yu's injuries and hurriedly left after confirming that it was indeed only external injuries. After Murong-yu entered the room, he directly sat down cross-legged and began to heal. Not long after, Murong Yang's elixir was sent over. After sending these people away, Murong-yu once again entered the Hichu Luoshu world. The elixir sent by Murong Yang was a product of the immortal cultivation world. Although the grade was not high, it was still a divine elixir for ordinary martial artists. Murong-yu's body was constantly circulating black gas on the surface of his body, and the wounds that were torn by the sword light were quickly healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not long after, Murong-yu's injuries were completely healed. Your body is still too weak. It can't even reach the strength of a low-grade magical tool. Hichu came over and sighed. If Murong-yu's body reached the strength of a low-grade magical tool, then even if the assassin was several times stronger, he wouldn't be able to hurt Murong-yu. Magical tool. What is a magical tool? Murong-yu stroked the black spear with his hand and asked puzzledly. It is a magical tool refined by immortal cultivators. It is far more powerful than the so-called magical tools of the secular world. Even if it is an ordinary magical tool, it is not something that a Xiantian martial artist can shake. In the immortal cultivation world, there are magical tools and spiritual tools. They are divided into low grade, mid grade, high grade, and top grade. Magical tools are the lowest grade, and spiritual tools are the highest grade. Of course, above spiritual tools are the so-called immortal tools, and so on. The phoenix spear in your hand was refined by your teacher and became one of the most powerful magical tools in the world. It is a pity that in that battle, your teacher fell, and the phoenix spear was almost shattered, falling to its current state. And I was beaten until only a wisp of my soul is left. Morong listened and nodded. Magical tools were the lowest grade magical tools or weapons in the immortal cultivation world. However, Morong was very interested in the teacher that he too had repeatedly mentioned, whom he'd never met before. Hichu, since teacher is one of the most powerful people in the world, how did he fall? Even you and the phoenix spear were almost killed? Hichu's eyes shot out two terrifying rays of hatred. Those despicable bastards plotted against your teacher. Otherwise, with your teacher's battle prowess, he would be invincible in a one-on-one battle. Teacher is so powerful. Who killed him? Morong continued to ask. Kid, knowing this too early won't do you any good. When you have the strength to avenge your teacher, I will naturally tell you the whole story. Hichu glanced at Morong and restrained the hatred in his heart. All right. Morong smiled bitterly. Even Zhao Yun, a titan known as the god of war, had fallen. Now that he knew who Zhao Yun's enemy was, it really wouldn't do him any good. The records of the chaotic celestial body is not only a top-grade technique for cultivating strength, but also a supreme technique for tempering the body. As a chaotic celestial body, you are destined to walk the path of close combat. If you don't have a powerful body, you won't have powerful battle prowess or powerful defense. Morong fell silent. After the battle with the black-clothed assassin, he had also discovered this point. If the assassin had wielded a magic artifact, he would have probably cut Morong in half. Powerful strength and a tyrannical body. This is the path I will take in my future cultivation. Morong face revealed a determined expression. Within the main hall of the Morong clan, in addition to the patriarch, Morong Yang, there were many elders of the Morong clan. In addition, Morong was also present. This was the first time Morong had entered the main hall. One had to know that this hall was where the Morong clan discussed matters. Ordinary people had no right to enter. Fortunately, Morong had become a genius of the Morong clan. Otherwise, he still wouldn't have had the right to enter. After a period of cultivation, no injuries could be seen on Morong's body. He had completely recovered. Patriarch, are you saying that the Yun clan is behind the assassination attempt on me? Morong's eyes flashed coldly as he asked in a low voice. The Morong clan was one of the most powerful clans in the secular world. It didn't take much time for them to thoroughly investigate the assassination attempt on Morong. Thus, while Morong was recuperating, they had already investigated the matter. The Yun clan was behind the assassination attempt. It turned out that this was because Morong had killed Yun Zhengming and crippled Yun Sheng and Yun Yu. One had to know that Yun Zhengming was the only Khanate expert in the Yun clan. Yun Sheng and Yun Yu were the only sons of the patriarch of the Yun clan, Yun Zhenghua. His brother had been killed and his two sons crippled. Basically, the Yun clan had been crippled. How could Yun Zhenghua let Morong off so easily? However, the Yun clan simply didn't have the ability to kill Morong. The only Khanate expert in their clan had been killed by Morong. In the end, the Yun clan could only pay a huge price to hire assassins to kill Morong. Originally, if Morong was an ordinary person, those assassins would naturally have killed him. However, Morong wasn't an ordinary person. Not only did those assassins fail to kill Morong, but they were also killed by Morong. A small Yun clan actually dares to touch a member of our Morong clan. They are truly seeking death. Elder Morong Hai's killing intense sword as he spoke coldly. He was rather fond of Morong. Thus, when he learned that Morong had been assassinated, he used all his might. He unleashed all of his power and found out the whole story in an instant. The Morone clan hasn't made a move for a long time. They have already forgotten how terrifying the Morone clan is. Since the Yun clan is seeking death, then we will directly exterminate them. Elder Morone Hai, you will be in charge of this matter. Morone Yang's eyes flashed with a cold light as he spoke coldly. The Yun clan is finished. Seeing all this, Morone Yu only shook his head. However, he didn't have any sympathy for them. From the moment the Yun clan hired assassins to kill him, the Yun clan's ending was already decided. Clan leader, I have a request. At this time, Morone Yu stood up and spoke. Morone Yang nodded and looked at Morone Yu. Clan leader, this matter started because of me. Thus, I also want to participate in this operation. Moreover, I want to take over the Yun clan's businesses myself. Morone Yu said in a deep voice. Although the Yun clan is laughable, our Morone clan doesn't care about those businesses. However, we have spent a lot of effort. The Yun clan's businesses should belong to the Morone clan. Before Morone Yang could speak, Elder Morone Bai said with a sneer, "You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."